Borough President, Eric Adams. And your Mayor, Bill de Blasio. All right. So before we begin, I'd like to invite up Amir Chazad to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Amir.
Hold on one second. Let's give people a minute. All right, you're good to go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, for one nation, under God, indivisible, with nations and justice for all.
Good job. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. So I'd like to thank some of our friends this evening. Our host, PS 13, Principal Maxine Cameron. Thank you, Principal Cameron. Our co-sponsors, Community Board 5, Chair A.T. Mitchell. A.T. The 75th Precinct Council, National Action Network East Brooklyn Chapter, and some of the community leaders who made tonight possible. Community Board 16, Chair Janice Morgan, District Leader Nikki Lucas, District Leader Dharma Diaz, Mr. Winchester Keys, Mr. Alberto Ramos, Mr. John Hangir Kaber, and Mr. Rupesh Ramjit. So with that, I'd like to invite one of our special guests, Brooklyn DA Eric Gonzalez, to give us some brief greetings.
Feels good to be home in East New York. I want to say thank you to the Borough President, Eric Adams, and to our Mayor, Bill de Blasio, for coming out and speaking to East New York. Listen, I grew up in East New York. A lot of you know that. I moved here in the 70s. I lived here throughout the 80s and 90s, and this is home. We've done an incredible amount. When I grew up in the 80s and I was taking the train right here on Livonia, the type of crime we had here was unbearable. We've turned the page on that. We're never going to go back. And so I'm happy to be here with my fellow residents in East New York and from Brownsville and everywhere near here to say the Brooklyn DA's office is here to serve the people of Brooklyn and make sure we keep it fair and that we have true justice in Brooklyn. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Borough President.
Your DA, Eric Gonzalez. Next, I'd like to invite your state senator, Roxanne Persad.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Borough President, thanks for hosting this evening. This, I think, is my 5th meeting with the mayor, and I want you all to have an open mind to just remind everyone. We know we're going to be talking about issues that are affecting us, and we want to make sure everyone understands that we're all working together to correct whatever the issues are. And so I commend the mayor for coming to East New York. Maybe we need to have another one also? Just saying, right? Just saying. But the people of East New York want to be heard, and that's why I thank you both for being here this evening. Thanks you all. You know, I saw my colleague is not here, but I want to make sure everybody understands Congressman Jeffries is also sending his best wishes. So thank you, Congressman Jeffries.
Thank you, Senator Prasad. Now, your host for this evening, the Borough President, Eric Adams.
You could have another job, man. You could do a whole radio hosting thing. You know, I'll never forget a couple of months ago, I was in Virginia at Barack Obama's town hall. And I was sitting next to a person. They came, they gave me the microphone. They said, you're going to ask Barack a question. Now, you know how exciting that was. And I didn't get to ask my question because everyone who got up to ask a question wanted to give a whole thesis on life. And I said, when I host this, there's only one message I want to give you. It's about your neighbors. This is not your moment of showing how bright you are. We know everyone in here is bright because you live in the east side of New York. But it's about how do I make sure, my goal, as I said to the mayor when we was in the room in the back, my goal is for everyone in here with a question to be able to ask the question. And the only way we can do that is to be tight and right and present your question. Now, if you say, you know, Mr. Mayor, my son goes to PS so-and-so and we're missing computers, that's beautiful. But if you go into, you know, my son goes to PS so-and-so, he was conceived the day I wore my blue dress, and we're just not going to get it done. Then the person next to you is going to be denied the opportunity to present the question that he or she would like to present. You feeling me on this? Yes. Second, I love the mayor. I consider him a friend. But we don't agree on everything. In moments that we disagree, we sit down, we present our piece together, and we figure out a way, how do we get there? One of the big things that I was big on is homeless and the homelessness and what we need to do around homeless shelters and what we need to do around homeless people. We sat down, Commissioner Banks, we came up with a good solution on dealing with having a community representative who was going to play a role in the middle piece on making sure that Bedford and Atlantic, which we consider to be ground zero of a terrible way of running the shelter because there was too much loitering, people were not doing things. We needed a representative on the community level that was going to speak on behalf of the community. Commissioner Banks, when we sat down and spoke, he said, Eric, great idea, let's figure it out. They put the job open out there. We were able to hire that person. I think Sam is here tonight. Sam, where is he? Sam is hired to hold that position. He's going to be your eyes and ears on the ground. The cure violence. Who can say enough about A.T. Mitchell? This brother, man. This brother. What he has done, and a report came out today. The report was lost in the sick mind of the person who took those innocent lives in Vegas. But a report came out today what the Cure Violence model is doing and saving lives. That's why I gave this brother $50,000 to get an emergency response vehicle so that he could have it here. This brother is doing some amazing. Stand up, brother. We need to show this brother some love, man. His whole team that's here, man up team. This brother is saving the lives of our people. One thing, Mr. Mayor, that I think we need to do, we need to figure out how do we get them health care, how do we get them the vehicles they need, and I'm gonna use my money to do that. We had an incident where a young man was on the ground. Chief, a young man was on the ground, responded to break up a shooting, no bulletproof vest, no protection, and that young man was shot. Had to go to the hospital, had to pay his own hospital bills, had to deal with almost, losing his home, his residence because of that. So we need to make sure that these brothers and sisters are on the ground doing their thing. We need to make sure they get the funding to do it. And as long as I'm borough president, you will get that funding from me any way that's possible. We need to make it happen. So I'm gonna switch over to the mayor. 60% of my capital that came to East New York went to our children, education, technology. I want to thank the mayor for making sure the numbers we got was unprecedented. We got from City Hall last year, we got $52 million to put back into the borough of Brooklyn in capital. That was one of the largest allocations, $800,000 in discretionary money. He didn't have to do it, he did it, and I appreciate him for that. So let's be thoughtful. Let's present the questions. He's here to hear your questions. We're not going to agree on everything. You may have a different perspective. We got it. But we don't want a back and forth all night debate on it. His commissioners are here. They will be here to answer what you are trying to find out from all over, you know. And one thing I want to say, man, before I turn it over to you, how you pick some of your commissioners. This queen here, sister, just had a baby. Come on, stand up, housing. Has it been 2 years? You know, housing. This sister was a housing advocate before she became the commissioner, chair of housing, chair of NYCHA. She was an advocate. Banks, where's Banks? Let me tell you about Banks. You know, Banks probably has, you have one of the hardest jobs outside of the PC. Banks was advocating for residents before he became a commissioner. The other guy hired guys from Wall Street. This guy is hiring guys from our streets. That's what it's about. And so the advocacy, he went out and found the advocates. Because, you know, advocates sometimes spend so much time thinking things are easy, and they advocate. And so the best way to make sure an advocate know how life is and say, you know what, you have some good ideas. Now you got the job. You figure out these solutions. And Banks has been doing that. The team has been doing that. Do we need improvements? Are there more things to do? Yes. Yes, you better believe there is. You know, you better believe there is. You know, I grew up in Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn, Lafayette Avenue, 936 Lafayette Avenue. And we had to dodge not only the slick cats, but the big rats. And we finally have a safe, clean block. And that's what we're pursuing. We want to create a place where we're going to raise healthy children and families who are going nowhere, because this is their Brooklyn. When they were waking up to gunshots and not alarm clocks, they stayed. And we're going to make sure they're going to stay. So let's have a lively discussion with the mayor of the city of New York, Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Well, everybody, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I always start with town hall meetings. I've done 36 around this city. And I always start by thanking everyone who comes out, because it is an example of love and commitment to the community to be here. A lot of people have had a long day and a busy day already, but still found the time to come here and participate and raise concerns and put ideas on the table. By the way, every town hall meeting, people have said things that a lot of us had not heard before about a way to solve a problem. And that's why this is grassroots democracy, when you actually present to people what you're trying to do, and you hear the concerns and you hear the ideas, and it helps us make the community better. So please applaud your neighbors, applaud everyone who's here tonight for being a part of this. I'll say some quick things up front, then it's open to anyone and everyone, and again, the borough president will be calling on people. Let me thank our district attorney. One of the reasons that Brooklyn gets safer and safer is we have a great partner in the district attorney, and he understands our communities, and he's doing a great job. Thank you to Eric Gonzalez. Senator Roxanne Persaud, I want to thank you. You have to go to one of the most dangerous missions you can ask anyone, to go to Albany, New York, and defend New York City, but she does it, and she does it well. Thank you, Senator. I want to thank all of the members of administration. I really appreciate what the borough president said about the nature of the members of administration and what drives them. They are driven by wanting to make communities better. They work extraordinarily hard. They've got a lot to show for their efforts. I want to give a special thanks to the leadership. The NYPD is here for all they have achieved in these communities, and all the men and women under their command. Thank you. And I remind people at every town hall meeting, you have the difference makers right here before you. We're going to do a formal meeting for quite a while this evening. At the end of the formal meeting, you can walk up and talk to any of these individuals who lead agencies that have a huge impact on your lives. They will be here. They will be ready to follow up with you on any item. If it's something you need to talk to them about personally, they'll be ready to continue the dialogue. Now, I mentioned they are committed, they are hardworking. Sometimes people might be a little worried. It's get late in the evening. You know, we go on for a few hours, it gets late. Should you come up and keep them here even later? The answer is yes. Because they are so committed to their jobs, they will stay here all night if you need them to. Let's give them a round of applause for that. The borough president has been an outstanding partner in this work. I, too, consider him a friend. I consider him someone who does amazing things for the borough that I love and I live in and my children were born in. And so we are blessed in Brooklyn to have Eric Adams as our borough president. It's just the truth. And it's amazing, you know, he said sometimes we don't agree. The vast majority of times we do agree. But when we don't agree, we pick up the phone and talk to each other, or we get together in a room and talk to each other. Maybe we should go to Washington, D.C. and give a seminar. When you don't agree, talk to the other person. You might get somewhere. But Borough President, you are the voice of Brooklyn, and you make so many things happen for Brooklyn. Let's thank him for all he does. Before we get into, I'm going to tell you some quick updates, and then we're opening it up to the room. But I got a somber duty first. We all, when we gather in common like this, we've got to reflect on things that are happening. What happened in Las Vegas, it's impossible to put into words. There's no way to explain how that could happen in a society that's supposed to be advanced, that's supposed to be civilized. This is not anything we can make sense of. Right now, it's 58 people dead, and tragically, that number could go up. Over 500 people injured. And it makes no sense, and we all have a lot of work to do to heal our nation and get our nation on a saner path. But this is what's happened to so many of our fellow Americans just since last night. We also, last week, lost a good young man in a public school in the Bronx, something that had not happened in a quarter century in his classroom. And we need to remember him and his family as well. So I'm going to just ask for a quick moment of silence for all those we have lost. Thank you very much. So, my friends, we understand what it is to see pain, to see injustice, to see unfairness, and we certainly understand in this city violence. We've seen too much violence for too long. But you did hear from my colleagues before that we all should be proud that we are turning things around slowly but surely in this town. East New York was one of the places that was not treated fairly for decades, for generations. I can say that very clearly. I don't have any fear of contradiction. The violence and so many other challenges grew because there wasn't a response from the government that was supposed to be there for the people. The people, to their great credit, stood up. It's what Eric said before. People stood by their neighborhood in good times and bad. Now they should be able to reap the benefits of the change because they built the change. And that is what we are committed to. And we also know, even though we are a lot better off than we were, it's not like the violence is all gone. It's not like we don't have to fight every day to make sure people are safe. I want to give credit where credit is due to two extraordinary forces doing such good. First, I want to say, since the NYPD embarked on the policy of neighborhood policing, we see the beginning of something very, very important in this city. A deeper dialogue and mutual respect between police and community. Something as simple as people knowing each other by first name. Something as basic as that. Our officers greeting community members by first name, and of community members knowing their officers, because the officer stays in the community and bonds with the community. That's the essence of neighborhood policing, and it makes everyone safer at the same time. In the 75th precinct, as one example. Just in the last year, this is an amazing thing to me, from this point this year compared to the same point last year, shootings are down over 30% in this precinct. And that's a credit to the men and women of the NYPD, and it's a credit also to a new philosophy that's helping everyone to do more. But I also want to add my voice strongly in the credit we give to this other extraordinary force that's getting finally the respect it deserves. The Cure Violence movement, the crisis management system, whatever name you give it, it is community members saving the lives of other community members. It's as simple as that. A.T. Mitchell, you have a lot to be proud of, my friend. You have a lot to be proud of. Everyone at Man Up, let's give them a big, big round of applause. A.T. and everyone at Man Up and everyone at Cure Violence Movement for a long time labored in the vineyards without a lot of respect from the government that should have been on their side, and certainly without a lot of resources. We have been adding resources year after year because we see good and powerful and important work happening, and I can't think of a better thing to do with taxpayer dollars than help support the Cure Violence movement. And this fact is astounding, and it's good news, and therefore you probably won't read it on the front page. I wish the front page reserved a little more space for good news. In the catchment area of Man Up, it has been over 1,000 days without a gun-related homicide. Everyone, you can stand for that. Everyone from Man Up, stand up. So there is a story here in Brooklyn, and it's worth telling. And I want to just tell you a few other things very quickly. Again, we'll talk about the challenges, and there are many, and I will try and give you a sense of what we're doing to solve problems, and sometimes I'll tell you honestly if there's something we know we got to do more to find a solution on. But let me tell you some things that we can be proud of together. Pre-K, full-day pre-K enrollment in this community, in this council district, has doubled in the last 3 years. Doubled for free. This is also where a great new experiment has begun for all of New York City. In Community School District 23, which includes, obviously, Brownsville and parts of East New York, and also up in the Bronx in Community School District 7, for the first time in the history of New York City, we have 3-year-olds getting early child education for free in our public school buildings. This is something revolutionary, and it has begun and is happening here in Brooklyn, and it's working already. And over the next 4 years, we will spread that to 3-year-olds all over the city. Progress is being made on new facilities. The East New York Family Academy, 602 children will go there, and it will open in the next few years. I know a lot of people fought hard for that. We also know that the burning issue in this community, every community city, is the ability of people who fought for this neighborhood and, again, saw it in good times and bad, to actually afford to live in their own neighborhood going forward. That is the thing that people raise to me everywhere I go. There's a lot of pieces to how we address this. One of them here in the community, Livonia Commons, 600 affordable apartments and jobs being created at the same time. That's one piece of the solution, is the creation of affordable apartments. The preserving of apartments that are already affordable, keeping families in them, and making sure they pay no more than 1/3 of their income in rent. That is the standard we hold, so that people can actually afford. But the other piece of the equation is to create more jobs so that people can afford their own city. 2 parts of the equation: more affordable housing, pegged to that level of 1/3 income, but the other piece of the equation is more jobs that allow people to have the kind of income that they can live on the right way. Because of the investments that are going in to the industrial business zone, we're making major investments in infrastructure, so it will be a place that more and more businesses will come and grow and create jobs right here. We predict almost 4,000 new jobs will be created in this community, with a preference for community residents getting those jobs. These are the kinds of things we have to do. And when it comes to affordable housing, I mentioned Livonia, but I want you to know for the council district overall, because it's striking. 1,869 apartments have been subsidized and preserved in place. 1,869 families that now know they have affordable housing for the long haul. 1,500 apartments being built as we speak. These are the things that change people's lives. And I always say one apartment means one family can live here for the long haul. And our job is to create the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, and reach as many people in the community. At the same time, we have an incredible, precious resource for affordability, the anchor of affordable housing in New York City. It's a thing called the New York City Housing Authority, the original affordable housing. And I want to be very clear about this. We believe in public housing. It will always be public. It will never be privatized. We believe in public housing and what it does for people. We're going to make major investments in this community. We started over the last few years with investments in some of the developments that needed them the most, particularly in terms of safety. And we saw what it meant to put in the basics to create a safer environment working with NYPD. We added boulevard houses, lights, we added cameras, and we're going to be adding more both for safety and for the physical wholeness of the developments, because we know how many developments did not have maintenance and repairs over a long period of time. So over the next 2 years, we will be fixing roofs and facades at Linden houses, Cypress Hills houses, and Brookline houses. Those investments are coming in now, and when we fix the roof, we fix the leaks. When we fix the leaks, we stop the mold. We stop all the health problems. We are putting literally $1 billion into fixing roofs in NYCHA developments all over the city. We're also going to be doing and completing facade work at Unity Plaza. That will be done this month, will be completed at Unity Plaza, and the sheds, the scaffolding, will be removed by the end of next month. And that's a major priority for this administration, to get the scaffolding down everywhere we can, because it's not safe and people deserve better. We're also making some specific investments that people here from these developments should know about. At Cypress Hill houses, we are putting in over $10 million for a new boiler. At Pink houses, we are putting in $3 million for cameras throughout the complex. At Woodson, we're putting in a new water tank. At Vandalia, we are doing sidewalk repair starting this month. Just a few last quick points. So we think about the things that we've touched on already: safety, education, affordable housing. These are the foundations of a community that everyone can truly enjoy, can be a part of, and be at peace in. But there's more that makes a great community, and parks is a big piece of it too. I know my kids spent so much of the time in the parks in our neighborhood. It's where our kids grow up in so many ways, and our recreation center. So we are investing almost $25 million in upgrades to the Brownsville Recreation Center, the Newport Playground, working with Councilmember Barron, also Linden Park, and working with the borough president and the council member, Cypress Hills Playground. All of them will be part of that investment package. And a new playground being created, Lions Pride Playground, a $4 million investment, a new play area with play equipment, benches, water fountain, and landscaping will be done in the next few years as well for the community. These are the specific things we need to do to improve the quality of life. We also know that we have to have a better working relationship all the time when it comes to any challenge the community faces. The community has to be able to get answers it needs from government. I want to commend the borough president because he understood when it comes to homelessness, we have to do a much better job. I'll say it on behalf of the government. On behalf of the Department of Social Services and Homeless Services, we a lot of times missed the ball in terms of communicating with communities, addressing community concerns. You fought for a director of community partnerships. Because of your advocacy, we hired Sam Clark. Thank you, Sam, for all you are doing. That's going to make a big difference. Last point. The borough president has also been strongly advocating for a simple act of justice. You've got two trains that come so close to each other, Livonia on the L and Junius Street on the 3, and there should be a free transfer. We're going to join with the borough president to fight to get the MTA to give people that free transfer. And finally, you know, there's an old saying. They say there's no Republican or Democratic way to pick up the garbage. But there is a good way to pick up the garbage and a bad way to pick up the garbage. And we have been having problems in some developments not seeing the garbage picked up by sanitation on a timely basis. Our sanitation commissioner has heard this challenge. She wants to address it. So I want to announce at Pink Houses and at Cypress Hills Houses that from now on there will be an extra pickup every week by sanitation to get those compactors cleared out so the trash will not be around development and people can live better. These are examples of changes that have been needed. We're going to keep making more, but I wanted to give you a flavor of some of the things that, because of concerns raised by elected officials, by community leaders, by the community board, some of the changes we're making already. With that, again, thank you everyone for being here. I look forward to your questions, your concerns, and let's see if we can get some good things done tonight. Thank you.
Great, great, great. Thank you. So we want to open it up. I am the Sandman from Apollo. So when you hear me say the question, you know what that means. The question, okay? You with me on that? Okay, so how many microphones we have? One? Okay, so we're going to start right here because you and I go to the same hairstylist, so I want to start with you.
Thank you. Welcome to East New York, 42nd District. Borough President, you know we think so highly of you.
He's doing some great stuff with you.
Right.
And I'm just going to ask this question, Mr. Mayor, around the rezoning issue. Mm-hmm. I know it's still a hot topic. I live in the 42nd District, actually a long-term resident of Starlight City. And as you know, it was put up for sale recently. They're still haggling over that type of thing. But one of the things we realized in Starlight City is that the rezoning that happened in the 39th District is a tsunami for the 42nd because the land value goes up. And I know you're aware of that. My question is this, as far as rezoning and providing affordable housing, why didn't you duplicate a sustainable, affordable housing program that mirrored the most successful one in the whole country? Mitchell Lama and the Nehemiah Homeowner Program was the most successful affordable housing, sustainable housing program in the whole country, and it's right here in the 42nd. How come we didn't do that?
Well, I'll start, and our housing commissioner, Maria Torres Springer, might want to join in. But I think this takes a minute or two to answer properly. The housing programs of the past were predicated on a lot of resources being available and a lot of things being very different. The cost of what it took to build housing. We're in a world now where there's all sorts of requirements that didn't used to exist in the past, and some of those are very good. Environmental requirements, for example, that are rightful and we would want. But I would take your question the next step. Why wouldn't we just build more public housing as we did historically, or Mitchell Lama or Nehemiah? And I think the honest truth is cost is a huge factor in the equation against the backdrop of need. If the need were less intense, you might argue, say there was 100,000 people in New York City who needed affordable housing, not millions. You would say, okay, let's just go and create the affordable housing for that small number of people who need it. The problem in this city today, and it's partly victims of our own success, we talked about the distance we've covered in the last few decades. As we got safer, as our economy strengthened, everything has been pushed up. The cost of everything has been pushed up. The cost of land has been pushed up. The cost of real estate's been pushed up. We don't want to go back to the bad old days, none of us, But there is a very intense unintended consequence of our improvement, that we have seen a shocking change in the cost of living and cost of housing. So my argument to you is the need has gotten so great that we've focused intensely on rental versus home ownership simply because of the cost involved and the need, and we're trying to get as much in the hands of as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, given the nature of the crisis. And because there are severe limits on what we have available in terms of public money. Again, in the days when a lot of these things were first formulated, there was an active federal government partner. That's a matter of history. From the 30s through the 60s into the 70s, the federal government assumed a huge amount of cost for anything related to affordable housing. That ended with a vengeance, and none of us has the illusion it's coming back anytime soon, nor do we have the illusion that we can depend on the state. We are, in this way, an island. It's what we can do ourselves. Therefore, we turn to trying to take the public money we had and leverage private investment to maximize the amount of affordable housing we could create. It is an imperfect equation. It is absolutely an imperfect equation. But I will tell you that we have doubled the amount of city investment compared to the previous administration. In the last budget in June, we added $2 billion more to keep driving down the income levels for the affordable housing so we could reach folks who needed affordable housing more, to get more seniors reached, for example, as well. And we think this is the best way we can stretch the dollars we have and reach the most people. We also think, last point I'll make, and then see if Maria has anything to add, and I'm sorry for the long answer, but you started, the first question was kind of the most essential. We also came to the conclusion, and I came to the conclusion from personal experience, that the absence of government intervention was more dangerous even than some of the challenges that we face with the rezoning. And how did I see that? I moved into my neighborhood in Brooklyn in 1992, and you hear Park Slope today, you think, oh, that's a neighborhood that's expensive homes and people are doing very well. In the 80s in Park Slope, there were I saw them with my own eyes. There were vacant lots, there were storefronts that no one would take, there were people leaving in droves, even in Park Slope, and many other parts of Brooklyn, obviously. The turnaround, when it occurred, at first it seemed like, oh, that's good, and then it started galloping and galloping. There was never a rezoning in Park Slope, but a lot of working class residents and lower income residents were still pushed out or priced out. There was never rezoning in Prospect Heights. There was never a rezoning in Bed-Stuy. There was never a rezoning in Bushwick. My argument all along from what I've seen is that the market forces, whether we like them or not, have already been changing our neighborhoods profoundly. And by the government intervening and setting a fundamental requirement around affordability and a guarantee of the creation of some real affordability, it was our best defense. It was our best way of striking a balance and also returning to residents who have gone through a lot some real investments, whether it's new parks, new schools, other things people needed in that same rezoning, giving something back in the process. It is far from an ideal equation. But from my point of view, it's the real world equation we have that we can make a difference with. Anything you want to add, Maria?
What I'll add is that, well, as the mayor mentioned, we've been very focused in the preservation and creation of 77,000 units thus far in the housing plan to make sure that we are addressing what is a very dire rental housing crisis, and in doing it in a way where we're reaching families who are particularly rent burdened. The plan of that 77,000, there is also a fair amount of home ownership. To your point about what have we learned from the Nehemiah experience and other models that we have used here in New York City. And so 10% of the 77,000 is actually home ownership. Excuse me? And so we are continuing to do that. In fact, I see Reverend Brawley here, who we work with at East Brooklyn Churches, where there is a good opportunity to create more home ownership, because we know that's important to wealth creation. We seize those opportunities because we know that the housing plan has to meet the needs and aspirations of families across different income levels.
don't want to get on this side. Want to be fair. Want to be fair. Sir. You want my mic? You can have my mic.
I just want to give thanks to Roxanne Pachard and Nikki Lucas and Mayor de Blasio for the fixing of the Vandalia houses sidewalk. We really appreciate that because everybody in the Vandalia houses are between 65 and 90 years old, and we really need that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, and we're going to do it quickly, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to get you in the back. I'm going to get you in the back. Yes, ma'am. Here you are.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Just put the microphone close so we can hear you.
In light of the recent stabbing about bullying, can the slogan, "If you see something, say something," be implemented in our schools? Plus, could there be like monitors in bathrooms and fields on the yard and lunchrooms? More eyes looking around.
Thank you very, very much. We had a meeting today with parent leaders from all over the city, the chancellor and I, to talk about things exactly like this, and I appreciate the points you're making. I think you're right. I think there's been a gap in terms of communication between schools and parents for a long time. And when I was a public school parent myself, and I was a community school board member back when we had them, I really was pained to see some schools did a very fine job of creating an atmosphere where there was a lot of communication and openness, and others did not. One of the things that we added when we did the last contract with the teachers was we added time every week for teachers to communicate with parents, obligatory time. And I think you're exactly right, and it is something we should start promoting. Parents often have a sense of if there's an impending problem and needs to get communicated cleanly and clearly to the school community. So I agree with you on that. In terms of personnel, we have to decide now, one of the things people talked about at the town hall meeting earlier was more guidance counselors, more mental health support. Monitors also could be a part of the solution. We obviously know we can't afford everything, but we have to make some choices. There's clearly some needs we're not reaching enough, and we've got to figure out what it is. My wife has focused on mental health through the Thrive NYC initiative, and it's a big deal for the city. I want to remind everyone, because this is one thing that's available right now, that look, a child may end up in a situation for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it might be a mental health condition that's been missed or has not gotten sufficient support, or it might be something totally different. But anybody who feels that there's a child in their life with a mental health challenge who needs help, and there should be no shame, no stigma. It's part of human life. Right now, separate from whatever you do with your school, you can call the hotline that my wife Charlene created. It's 888-NYC-WELL. And I want to remind everyone, it's not like it's only adults. If a young person needs that help, a parent can call on their behalf or they can call directly, 888-NYC-WELL. It is confidential. It's multiple languages. It's 24/7. It's trained counselors. And then they make sure that if you need a particular appointment or a particular service, they literally will set up the appointment for you and make sure you get it. So yes, to your point, we need to encourage the communication, and I agree the slogan's the right slogan. Yes, there's going to be more personnel we need in some different ways. We got to sort that out. But in the meantime, no one should ever feel powerless if they see something where they feel someone needs help right now, any time of the day. Calling that number can be part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. In the back there. Yes, ma'am. In the back. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hi, Mayor. It's a great honor to meet you. My name is Susan Tim. I do have a couple of things, actually. The first
one thing.
Uno.
Everyone's one.
All right. I suffered with liver disease, short story. For 20 years, I was a patient at Mount Sinai Hospital. And when it came time for me to get a liver transplant, I couldn't get a liver transplant at Mount Sinai Hospital. And the reason was because New York State is 50th in the nation in organ donation. We are the worst state in the United States. And what they tell you, and
Ma'am.
All right, I'll be quick.
I don't want you to be quick. I want you to give me a question.
Okay.
Okay.
What they tell you is they tell you to go to other states to get a liver or other organs, or you die.
I don't think that's a real sensitive message, is it?
Yeah. About 50% of people waiting for liver in New York die.
Okay.
Ma'am.
So what are you asking us to do?
Give me a question.
The question is, what can you in the mayor's office do to increase organ donation in New York City and New York State? I know there are organizations that work on organ donation, but what can you do?
Well, I appreciate the question. And who's here from health? Because I'm not familiar what we are doing. Our first Deputy Commissioner, Dr. Osiris Barbeau, is here. It's a very good question. And I didn't know New York State was 50th in the country, but I do know it's important to encourage organ donations. What is the city doing? What can we do?
So first of all, I want to thank you for bringing up that very important issue, because you're right, especially for communities of color, organ transplants are a major issue, and having suitable donors is a major issue. So we currently don't have an initiative on organ transplant, but we have been partnering with the Greater New York Hospital Association to see how we can work more closely together. And so we can follow up with you and with Greater New York to see what we can do.
So I'm going to declare this one of the examples of an idea we get from a town hall meeting that helps us to think about how to do our work better. We should think about what kind of public effort, since we do a good job as a city getting messages out on important public issues, we should think about what kind of public effort. And we should also think about in all the different places where people come in contact with the city, schools and public hospitals and everything else, do we want to put organ donation forward more consistently as an option? So using all of our tools. So you'll follow up on that.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if I could interject, many of you know my struggle with diabetes and reversing diabetes without medicine. And I have been speaking with the Deputy Mayor of Health, and I believe that we're going to make an exciting announcement in the years to come, because outside of being born with problems with your kidney, lifestyle is what really is impacting our kidneys. We're seeing more kidney dialysis opening in our community too fast. And so there's some things we're going to be doing, Borough Hall is going to be doing, teaming with City Hall, so that we can reverse this condition that is happening in our community. The goal is not to try to have to find a liver, but let's do some things that could prevent our liver from actually losing in the first place. And that's what we want to do. Okay, but I went to South. I just want to make sure I move around.
Can I add something to my answer?
Yes, you can.
The most common reason for liver cancer in people who are of the baby boomer age, born 1965 and older, is hepatitis C. So that if you have not been tested for hepatitis C, go to your nearest clinic, talk to your doctor about getting tested for hepatitis C.
Right, and that's liver cancer. Outside of liver cancer, diabetes, leading cause of blindness, leading cause of limb amputation, leading cause of kidney failure, leading cause of heart disease. Down the line, we need to reverse it, put it in another direction. Right here. Yes, sir. Yes?
I just want to say thank you to the community for coming out. I want to thank the elected officials, and I also want to thank the police department for doing such a great job with the NCOs. But Mr. Mayor, I just want to say thank you for supporting the people in Puerto Rico. I'm grateful for that as a Puerto Rican from New York. You did such a great job.
Thank you.
And I just want to, I couldn't express thank you so many times, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you,
I'm
brother.
grateful.
Thank you.
Grateful for what you've done.
I just want to say to everyone, and thank you for that, but we have a long haul ahead with Puerto Rico. And we have a connection. The 5 boroughs has a 6th borough. It's called Puerto Rico. And we have a deep, deep connection, but they have been left high and dry. Here's two amazing facts. The first is that MSNBC ran a chart of the response time during the Obama administration in the United States response to the earthquake in Haiti. The exact specific things. When did the high-ranking military from the United States arrive? When did the hospital ship get sent? All these things. They put it up against the timeline for Puerto Rico, and in every case, the Obama administration responded to Haiti faster than the Trump administration responded to part of the United States of America. So that's telling right there. The second is Puerto Rico has almost exactly the same population as the state of Connecticut. If the state of Connecticut did not have electricity or water or food, the entire United States military would be there helping them right now. So we're seeing an unfairness, a deep unfairness before our eyes. We, New York City, even if the United States government is not there enough for Puerto Rico, New York City will be there for Puerto Rico for the long haul. Thank you, brother.
On this side. Yes, ma'am. No, right here.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming. My name is Linda Searles, and I live in Newport Gardens. And most of the people in Newport Gardens feel that they're in the process of being put out of their homes. Most of the tenants have been living there in Newport for over 30 years.
Why do they feel that? Help me understand.
Because the place was taken over by new owners, and the new owners are forcing people to sign leases that are not income-based, stating that you would be paying market rent as of January 2018. And a lot of these people are signing the leases out of ignorance and fear. And we have a lot of elderly people there. We have sought help from every place that we know to seek help from, and we haven't came up with no good solutions.
Okay, well, let's get one now.
I refuse to sign my lease because as of October 8th, they say they're going to take me to court, so I'm willing to go to court.
Okay,
I'm
now,
not going to sign an $1,800 lease that I can't afford to pay.
I appreciate that. So let's figure out what we can do about it. So first, let's define what it is.
So, ma'am, thank you for your question. Is it a city-affiliated or housing or Mitchell-Lama, or this is privately owned?
No, it's not. It's privately owned now, but it's a Section 8.
Give me the microphone, please.
The project has Section 8
development, right?
Tenants.
And so people are feeling that due to the new administration, a possibility that our fundings will be stopped and we will be put out in the streets.
Okay, so Steve Banks, my colleague here. So we are. I think what we'd love to do is after this to make sure we get the specifics. Terrific. And we can make sure that all of the tools that the city has in its disposal, including legal services for tenants who are facing eviction in housing court, which is a new program that has been developed in this administration, that we bring those to bear to see how we can help the people in your building.
Can I just get a little clearer? So there are Section 8 tenants in the building, but it's not. The whole complex is Section 8. Okay.
24 different buildings. It's like, Newport Garden takes up a whole block.
Right.
So the whole place is, Section 8 based.
Uh-huh.
When you move in there, you automatically get Section 8.
If it's Section 8 based, it sounds like we should have more ability here. So speak to it.
Well, I think I'm Steve Banks. I'm the Commissioner of Social Services. As my colleague described, the mayor's funded an unprecedented program to provide legal services for tenants, so that going forward in the city, we will be providing lawyers for all tenants in housing court. But the problem you're describing seems like we should get some of our lawyers that we're funding from legal aid or legal services to come and meet with the tenants. Sounds like maybe it's already in the works, but we will take a look and look at your address and see if we can step up what's going on so people aren't in fear of having to sign things that they think they shouldn't have to sign.
Okay, so I need whichever one of you, any one of you, that's a lot of buildings.
Yep.
So which one of you? You're going to go out there? Okay, so the commissioner will come out there in the next few days.
We'll go together.
Meet with you. We'll go together. It'll be a team. But we need all the paperwork in front of us to figure out what we can do, what we have to try and do with HUD, the whole thing. But if it's project-based Section 8, we want that to remain affordable, and we want to find every tool we can to keep it affordable. Thank you for raising it.
And someone will follow up directly with you right now.
Do this for me. Stephen Ringo is my communication director, and I have my counsel here also. He's going to give you a card, okay? And we're going to come out and just get all the tenants together and find out what's going on. It's so important to organize the tenants as well. Okay, so between the City Hall and Borough Hall, so Stefan's going to give you the card and make sure that someone will speak with you tomorrow, okay? Okay. Right here. Listen, I'm going to get you.
How you doing? How you doing, Mr. Mayor? It's a pleasure meeting you. My name is Mr. Drumgo, the most controversial president, Mr. Drumgo. From Brook Island Houses, which is one of the biggest. 30 buildings, 64 acres. 12 workers with 30 buildings. We need one worker per building. The garbage is phenomenal. This is why I stay on the news, because we are not savages in the pursuit of happiness, and we will not continuously to live like this. And we're asking for you guys to come out here and see how we are living. I just had a major call just now for a major pipe that just busted in my office, and I'm still here fighting for the people. You know, with all due respect, I know y'all speak about
no, brother, no, come on, no, brother, no, we're not going to do this. Question, I need you. Right. I love what you're doing over there.
But I'm asking him. I'm asking him. Okay. What can you do to rectify this situation?
Yeah. So in terms of, again, we're going to keep making investments on this particular development. Let's talk about what we can do right away in terms of physical investments, and if there's a garbage problem. I got you. What can we do, again, investment-wise, and then is there a personnel need that we can do something to address?
Thank you for your comment, and I apologize about the pipe. I think we have emergency personnel responding right away. This literally just happened in the last hour. We have a major roof replacement thanks to the mayor's investment that's underway that will get started early next year. You also have a new manager that I think just began in the last several months that we put there after I visited, because we saw some of the issues there, including the trash, which we are working very closely with our colleagues at DSNY, because we understand there's also some illegal dumping happening there as well. So we will follow up directly about the cleanliness issue in the buildings that you're talking about, but we will continue to work. That is a budget issue that we continue to work with our federal government and our federal colleagues. And as you know, the federal outlook for public housing is not great, but we are working very closely to make sure we can do better with the basics.
Hold on, then this is, we do have unquestionably a massive budget problem when it comes to NYCHA. No one in this room is surprised by that statement. And we have $18 billion in repairs we're constantly trying to find money to address. But on the question of the basic maintenance, because I want to acknowledge this concern that's been raised here. If basic cleaning inside the development, do we believe that's happening sufficiently? Do we need to do anything special to address that situation?
Well, first, I respect his opinion if it isn't happening, so we need to tighten up and make sure we are holding our employees accountable. We did increase headcount at Brookline this year, not just with seasonal, in addition to seasonal. So there were 6 new heads added to your development this year.
Okay, we're not going to do it back and forth.
Yeah.
Let's seriously let her finish, because if we don't do the whole meeting with a back and forth, go ahead.
So one, we will follow up tomorrow with an actual assessment of what's happening in the buildings. We have added permanent 6 heads this year, and as you know, Mayor, we're working overall on the overall budget to understand our head count across all of our portfolio. They also have seasonals, which is a staff augmentation, which we are actually extending to keep there to help with caretaker and janitorial issues as well.
That's very helpful. Let me note to everyone that the timing of this discussion, because it's important. There was a town hall meeting earlier in the year before we got to the June budget, where the concerns about the roofs were really put forward very intensely, and there's a problem in so much of NYCHA. And that was literally, it was through residents continuing to raise a concern that helped focus our attentions. That's where we made the $1 billion commitment, enough to cover 900 buildings' roofs. So that's a very, very big deal. We added $300 million more in that same budget to deal with facade issues. So $1.3 billion went into NYCHA in one budget alone. We're going to keep looking at the issues in NYCHA because the need is endless. Here's what I think is the bottom line. It's a timely discussion as we start the budget process in January again, to hear about this issue, about your need in some places potentially for more workers. The question is going to be, and everyone's watching this together, what happens the next few months in Washington? If Washington undermines us, we have a hard time investing. If Washington doesn't undermine us, then we're interested, I'm interested, I know Shola's interested in adding more investment in NYCHA. Here's the question right now. What happens on the Affordable Care Act? So far, we couldn't be happier. It's been, every effort to undermine it's been beaten back. Trump said he's coming back again in the spring, but so far I like what I see on the Affordable Care Act. The budget, the federal budget, the original proposal was horrendous. Some of that's been beaten back, more to do. The big challenge for New York City right now is the Republican tax plan. If it goes through as it is now, it will take a huge amount of revenue away from us, and it will take away our ability to do more for NYCHA and for other things we need to do. If that is beaten back, which is a distinct possibility, and we're left at all neutral, it gives us the opportunity to deepen our investments in NYCHA. So I appreciate this dialogue because it's going to help us put this item on the agenda as we go into the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Brawley. St. Paul's Church, a real giant out here in East New York. How do I get me one of those EBC stickers?
Feels like it's only been days since we've seen each other.
It's been days. Thank you, Borough President. Mr. Mayor, welcome to East New York.
Thank you very much, Reverend.
And you had us in your neck of the woods just Friday.
Yes.
Gracie Mansion, and we thank you for hearing our concerns and 13 of our leaders who were there.
Yes.
And our concerns were building 15,000 units of senior housing on underutilized NYCHA land.
Yep.
Also rehabilitating NYCHA from top to bottom, making $18 billion investment. Use city money so that we can have rents that we can afford, black and brown folk who live in East New York and Brownsville and this city. Hold slumlords accountable. Now, Mayor, your plan, we're not saying anything about your plan tonight, but we believe if you look at this plan, it will expand the impact of making sure that what you want to do is that the folk who really need help get their help. Yep. And our folks can stay in the city in which we built, the city in which we raised our children, the city in which we've lived our lives. Mayor, you told us you would give us an answer sometime this week, and we're here tonight to see if you have an answer. Also, as you know, we're meeting this Monday, 12 p.m. outside of City Hall. 5,000 of us will be there.
Yep.
And we just want to know, do you have an answer to our plan?
Well, you know, you have a great deal of faith in government that between Friday and Monday we would have a full answer. I admire that. But Reverend...
Because you're progressive. That's why we're here.
That's right. You believe. I appreciate that. Reverend, first of all, I said to you, we want to give you an answer before the gathering you're going to have at City Hall, and I mean that. I was very struck by your plan. I don't make commitments before I'm ready to make a commitment, so I try to be very careful about that. But there were elements in your plan that, honestly, I had never seen in any other plan before, which I appreciated. We're going to tell you before your gathering anything that we can say we're in agreement with, we'll tell you. Anything that we know we have a concern with, we'll tell you. Anything we're still analyzing, we'll tell you. But what I thought was very helpful was you contributed another dimension to what we've been trying to do. I think you saw some things that we didn't see, which I appreciate. And we want to work closely with you and the entire all the organizations that you represent here tonight. We want to work with you on solutions. Your point that you started with is right. We don't believe our current initiatives are the end-all, be-all. We believe they're in the right direction. We believe they're having an impact. We've got to do a lot more. And we welcome anyone who comes to the table with ideas of how we can do more. So we look forward to working together.
Thank you.
So
Pastor, love you.
I'm just going to say good night.
Okay.
We have you. I just wanted to say we have to leave.
Good.
Yes, sir.
We have to leave because we have to organize for next Monday, 12 noon. We don't want to disrupt the meeting.
Thank you.
We just wanted to thank you for this opportunity.
You should get a note for that. We're going to give you a note saying you had excused absence. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Came with a whole crew, Pastor. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I love St. Paul.
Take care now.
You can flow while people are moving, huh? Mayor?
Yes,
you can
absolutely.
still flow? Okay.
Go for it.
In the back.
First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to the mayor and thank you for the First Lady for touching on mental illness. As a nurse for over 25 years and right now dealing with reentry program, I'm going to ask you that question, but it is important for us to see the mental illness. People see the physical, but my question to you, what can we do? Not for you, you can transfer it to the First Lady.
Sure.
What can we do in the school system to prevent those children from going forward with that mental illness that nobody want to see? I know it's hard for parents to see your children having mental illness, but if in the school system there is professional enough to realize the problem and try to deal with those children, we will not deal with so much problem that we're doing today in our society.
Amen.
So
Thank
please do
you.
so. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for your great work in the community. I appreciate it. So I think you're hitting one of the most essential elements of the plan that my wife Charlene created, the Thrive NYC plan, which was to make sure that every school will have access to some kind of mental health services for the children in the school. Even the pre-K and the 3K were teaching the teachers at that age to look for any signs of a challenge, and if they see something, to be able to get professionals to come in and help out the parents. So the first point is to make some access to mental health care available in every school. There are some of our schools in the Community School Initiative, that's 215 schools, that will have a mental health professional in the school on a regular basis. Other schools will share professionals, but they'll have access to them. But the thing that I think we have to do, which is both about what the government does, but also about fixing the stigma, is to encourage everyone. And Charlene always says this: if you have a broken leg, no one thinks you're a less good person because you have a broken leg. Or if you have asthma, no one accuses you of having some weakness in your character because you have asthma. With mental health, our society has taught us to put some strange value judgment on it, rather than understanding it is just part of the human condition and has been as long as there's been human beings. So we hope through the Thrive Initiative to deeply reduce the stigma so a parent can feel comfortable talking about something they see in their child, going to a teacher, going to a principal, going to a doctor and say, something is happening, I don't know what this means, help me figure this out, and get that professional help. Here's the amazing thing. Charlene, when she started this work, started learning things I had no idea about. The typical American, it is 10 years from the time that their mental health challenge manifests until they get treatment. 10 years. Imagine, see again the disparity between physical health and mental health. You're not going to wait 10 years if you have a broken leg, right? Or if you have asthma, God forbid. But we have a societal problem where we will allow that gap to be the norm. And by the time you get 10 years down the line, the situation is much, much worse. The second point that she raised, again, which I didn't fully understand until she started doing the work, all mental health conditions are treatable. There are some physical diseases we still don't have a cure for, but all mental health conditions are treatable. You add that fact together with the previous fact, and you see how much more we can change things if we identify early and the schools have professionals they can turn to. So we've made a major stride. We're going to intend to add to that fully. But I can say with assurance, now any parent should be able to go into their school and talk to someone who can get them connected to a mental health professional.
And it's just really important that part of the initiative that I'm attempting to do, people have not connected to mental health with what we feed our children every day in school. Processed meat is a carcinogen that causes cancer and disease, yet every morning we feed it to our children. That is part of my battle. My battle is, in our community, we get junk food. In other communities, they get whole food. I want our community to have some good food, and we can stop. We would go do the research on mental health nutrition and see the connectivity between mental health and diet. See what broccoli does for people with autism. It's the food, folks. It's the food. And if we would tinkle around the edge, yes, we could give our children medication. We can give them that. But if we change their diet, we won't see what we are seeing. trust me on this, and I'm going to fight hard that our children get the food they need to heal their bodies. Young lady in the back, I saw somebody in the back. Yes, ma'am. Yes, and I'm gonna come over here to you guys. I know why you want me to do this job. Now I figured it out. You know, because you get beat up when you're the MC. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Mayor de Blasio, this question is for you. I'm a member of the Jails Action Coalition. You have yet to meet with us. And working on Rikers, doing cognitive behavioral therapy, I came across many barbaric acts. And one of my questions to you and to your new mayor, new commission that you will put in place is what are you going to do? Because although solitary confinement has ended for 16 to 21-year-olds, as we say on paper, there are units that have been renamed so solitary confinements continue. But my question is, there are youth, young adults on the island being shackled with their hands and their feet to death for 7 hours out of the day. What are you and your new commissioner going to do about that?
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the question, but I want to contest one piece of it. Again, for a long time, solitary confinement, otherwise known as punitive segregation, was tolerated in this city over many, many administrations. We ended it for everyone from 16 to 21, and that is across the board. So yes, there have been some new units created, but not for the purpose of recreating solitary confinement. We fundamentally disagree with it. We have a federal monitor who also disagrees with it. We've been working with it. So what I will guarantee you is I will have a senior member of my administration speak with you. If you have evidence of something to the contrary, I want to know that. I believe we're following our mandate, but I want to listen if someone sees something that we need to hear. On the question of how young people in particular are treated while they're during their educational time, when you say it, I also react the way people in the room react. The challenge we have, and it's with a small number of people, if we have some individuals who unfortunately have acted aggressively, but we still want them to get the educational programming, we're left in a difficult situation. I'm happy to have you again meet with members of my administration and help us if you can find a better alternative, because here's one thing I will not back down on at all. We've got to give education and training to everyone who's in Rikers. We have to. It used to be only an hour. Listen to this. In the previous administration, the typical inmate got 1 hour a day only. We have now mandated every inmate gets 5 hours of education and training every day, so they can get a chance to get back into society and succeed. And for anybody who is sentenced for a crime to serve time on Rikers, we are now going to guarantee them a transitional job when they come out, so they can actually have a chance to get back into society positively. So we want everyone to fully take advantage of those educational and training programs. We've got to figure out how to do it safely. But I would welcome having my folks have a dialogue with you. If you think there's some way to do it better, we're listening.
And that's really commendable. You know, really, I don't know if people really heard what the mayor stated. Those young people who are in Rikers, you speak to a correction officer, some of the most violent people who are in jail are some of our young people. They're in pain, they're hurting, they come from violence. And what I like, and I would like to do also, Stephanie, please give the young lady our card. I would like to hear some of your ideas, because the ideas don't come from people in government. It comes from people who are down on the granular level. So share some of your ideas. One thing I know about this mayor is that you come up with a good idea and you develop it. He will pull his people in the room and say, listen, let's try this. He's not afraid. He didn't have the arrogancy of a billionaire who think they know it all. He understands that the idea is going to come from the people who are impacted. Your passion is what we need to deal with what's going on in Rikers Island. And for these young people to come home to a job, the only common denominator in jails across the country is not ethnicity, it's not economics, it's about education, and it's about employment. Give them a job. They won't commit a crime with a gun if they have a hammer in their hand building a building. And so, hooray for you on doing that. That's a very important initiative. Go ahead, brother, right here, right in the back. Get the microphone.
Thank you guys for having this important meeting in East New York. I've been a resident of East New York for about 47, 48 years. And I remember this community looked totally different. I've seen it come from bad to worse and come back up again now. I remember you from Transit Police. I don't know if you remember me. But my question is this. I'm a landlord. I have 6 tenants, right? And I've spoken to other landlords who would like to participate in the Section 8 program, but because of all this red tape and regulations that tie our hands, we're small business owners. These regulations are just too much. You're asking us to do way too much, and then you allow NYCHA to get away with everything. They don't adhere to the same regulations that you put us under. And it's just too much, man. And a lot of people are backing out of that, as opposed to extending our hands to be a partner with you guys and finding affordable housing and keeping affordable housing. We're walking away because of the regulations. It's just too much.
Fair. What's your first name?
James.
James is entirely right. So no, it's not debatable that we hold the private landlords to a high standard, which is right. But you're right. Sometimes our own institutions are not held to the same standard, and it is too difficult for a lot of landlords to participate who want to participate. We would like it to be a good and positive and straightforward experience because we need every possible apartment to be involved with us on Section 8. And I think we've, in the past, certainly made it too hard. Now, I know we are trying, I emphasize trying, not there yet, to simplify, to offer more resources up front to landlords, to improve the equation so that they will want to participate. We'll know it's working when you feel it's something you can use comfortably. But Maria, and I know Steve's been involved as well, do you want to speak to, and obviously Shola, do you want to speak to some of the changes to make it more, if you will, user-friendly for the landlords?
Right. So let me thank you for that comment, and I lament that you're having a frustrating experience because, as the mayor mentioned, we do want more participation from landlords. We want that experience to be streamlined. What we've tried to do in our efforts is to put as much of that information, for instance, online, to make it very clear what the steps are, but clearly, given your experience, we need to do more. And so what I'd love to do is have a direct follow-up with you about ways we can make that experience better, because to the extent that you are successful, we are successful in what we are trying to do.
So can I put a point on that? And I appreciate Maria being hands-on about the situation. I want to know exactly what would make Section 8 work for you. So when you speak to her, I want it, if you'd be so kind, to give us a checklist of here are the things I need for this to be something I want to participate in. That's what we need from you. And then we'll do our darnest to follow it up and make it happen. Thank you.
And I would just add one thing with regard to Section 8 at NYCHA, which is to say we've also put all of our information online in terms of how to become a landlord, as well as, and if similarly I offer our resources to sit with you if our process, which we've actually tried to make them very consistent. If it is not clear, we'd like to know that information as well. We'll come back and follow up with you afterwards. The other thing is we've had and continue to have focus groups with different types of owners to try and understand where those obstacles are. So we absolutely would love to talk to you more. You can access all of our Section 8 information on our landlord portal, which is online. And so we'd be happy to talk to you after. Thank you.
So please get your information. Get your information. Let my staff know. You know, a lot of people don't realize, Mayor. You know, when you think about the homeless problem, you know, someone can throw a rock, hide their hand, and then give you a Band-Aid while your head is bleeding. That's what happened to the homeless problem. And many of you don't realize that. I think it was the Avanta program, Commissioner. The governor of the state of New York cut the Avanta program. And after he cut, well, homeless went up how many percentage? 38%. Homeless went up 38% because the people who were being subsidized to get housing in the city, he cut the program. And when he cut the program, all those people who were getting housing from the state was no longer getting housing. And if they went from having housing, they went into a homeless shelter. And so he threw the rock, your head is bleeding, And you're walking around saying thank you for blowing up a bridge out in Greenpoint. Come on, we got to focus who's really taking our service away from us. You know, and then we look and say, well, Mayor, why are you not doing something about housing? That's what started the housing problem. That's how we got here in this housing mess that we're in, because people were getting these subsidies. So now we went to landlords like this gentleman here. We had him, he was getting a Section 8 voucher that we were paying for. And all of a sudden, we said, you know what, we're no longer paying for it. He said, wait a minute, I got this tenant in my apartment that you were paying. You told me you made a commitment with you. Well, you know, that's too bad. So what is he going to do? Focus on who's doing what. Yes, ma'am. I'm saving you for last.
Hi,
because I know
thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for coming out tonight, Mayor. And I'm really listening to you about mental health because I'm a mental health counselor. And then I'm listening to you about homelessness, and it's compounding a community. It has compounded Ashford and Livonia. It is ridiculous. Send somebody out to see it. People are begging. People are walking around in bags. Okay? So I heard everything everybody had to say today. But until we clean up our own backyard, because anybody know Ashford and Livonia, what it looks like? It's ridiculous. So when we say regentrify people, how do we regentrify people's minds? That's the first thing. The second thing, only one. Because I got to go into the school system.
Hold on, sister. No.
Okay, one per person.
Ashford and Livonia. No, you already asked the question.
Okay, there's
You already
let
asked
me
it.
ask you.
Y'all know I'm Popo. Y'all know I'm retired Popo.
Good, you're good. You're a woman of honor. So now, you're saying that location, ma'am, so that location, you're saying there's people on the street and obviously in distress and one thing or another. So I want to know from my team, PD, social services, et cetera, what are we doing about that location to address the situation? That's you, Inspector? Okay, go ahead, Steve, to start.
So, thank you for raising the issue. The mayor has doubled the number of outreach.
Put the microphone up.
Thank you for raising the question. The mayor's doubled the amount of resources we have to have outreach teams out. We're out in that area trying to bring people in from the streets. As you know, people ended up on the streets, not because of something happened all of a sudden, but because of a lot of changes that go on. We've been able to get 865 people off the streets, and we'll come and pay special attention to that area again. We regularly have people out there. We work very closely with the police department to try to address these problems. But we will follow up with you afterwards and make sure we get some people out there.
Before the inspector, I just want to say, even though, Steve, everything you said was factually true, if it's that evident, it means we have to put more personnel on the situation.
Absolutely.
So it should come up the priority and more personnel. So yeah, go ahead.
Right, so what we'll do is we'll get you information tonight. Tomorrow we'll go out, we'll meet. If you're available tomorrow, we'll take a walk around. You're available, I'm available. We'll bring some of our NCOs out, we'll take a look. I think we had a problem by a library there. One of our council meetings, we had some problem with the homeless in their library. We got them out of there. So again, we can't push them around. We'll see if we can get them some help. We'll hook up together. Absolutely. And we'll meet tomorrow or whatever's available for you.
Thank you. Good.
You want my card?
Thank you, Inspector.
Right.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. Over here, any question over here? Go on what? No, listen, no, sir, no, we're not going to do, listen. Okay, and I got you. And we will come to you. Listen, no, I'm not missing you. I'm speaking to your neighbors also, but we're not going to do that, okay? Well, I'll get to you, but we're not going to do that. Yes, ma'am, in the pink.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, President.
Good evening.
My question concerns the new houses that are being built at Spring Creek. I was wondering if there is a change in any something in the application or so, because it seems that something is at a stalemate. People that I know applied for houses before these last set of houses are being built. Although they received letters stating that they were going to be called, they have not been called. and others who have been turned down, who have actually turned down after they were called, the disparity was they had either children or others in their house. So is there something now that says, if I am single and I have no one else on my application, I wouldn't be considered for housing?
No, but let me ask the first question that Maria may know the answer, because I don't know the ownership structure at Spring Creek and how it fits or doesn't fit with our program. So let's start with explaining that to everyone.
So the upcoming phase of Spring Creek, these are home ownership homes, right, that are mostly three-bedroom homes. And we're familiar with this issue, Mayor, because the development team, East Brooklyn congregations, as well as Monadnock, have let us know that have raised the issue of whether or not 1 or 2 person households could qualify for a 3-bedroom home. So I'll say 2 things. One, all of our projects, rental or home ownership, we really do try to make sure we're providing homes for households of different sizes. For this particular phase of Spring Creek, as you can imagine, we want to make sure, because there's a real crunch in terms of the sites that we have, that if it's a 3-bedroom home, that as it goes through the marketing or lottery process, that is made available to families that are of a larger size, because there's a real need for that. Having said that, we are also working very closely with the development team to see if there is a portion of those units that could be made available to smaller households. So it's definitely an ongoing conversation. We're very focused on it. We want to make sure we allocate this resource that we have and these home ownership units in the most equitable way.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, get over here. Right here, man. Yes. Then get his brother to. We good. Good.
Good afternoon. My name is Veronica, and I am a single mother of 2 small children. I've lived in Boulevard houses for 23 years now. I'm currently in a 1-bedroom, needing a 2-bedroom. I've been told that any apartment that is currently vacant or becomes vacant becomes market rate now, because it was picked for one of the complexes, and I have to move to another neighborhood. So I was wondering why they did not set aside a certain amount.
Wait, say again where you are now?
In Boulevard houses.
Boulevard houses. Who told you that? That makes no sense.
My housing assistant told me that.
From NYCHA?
From NYCHA. And I also contacted the IG's office, and I was told I cannot move in Boulevard housing.
Okay, well, let me start and then pass to the chair. Well, I think we'll be interested to know who that was, so we're going to follow up afterwards to, that's not an accurate message.
Not accurate at all.
So, well, if they're doing it, no, look, just let me do a quick timeout on this point before turning to the chair. So, as your mayor, I have the privilege of holding this office. It also comes with supervising about 400,000 people from all, think about it, police, education, sanitation, housing, etc. There are some of our 400,000 people who sometimes do not say the thing they should say or do the thing they should do. We need to know who they are to either re-educate them or help them find another employment opportunity elsewhere. So we'll follow up on that. But in terms of someone who's in NYCHA and hopes for a different size apartment, speak to how we go about that, Chair.
Sure. Well, first of all, I absolutely am very interested in knowing who that was. Secondly, I apologize that you've been waiting. Have you applied for a transfer? Just yes or no, and we can follow up. Okay. So one, we will talk to you afterwards and find out kind of where your application process is. I know you know that the wait for apartments is very long. We are absolutely working to try and rectify that with the mayor's support by bringing on line those apartments that have long been vacant because we didn't have money for repairs. We've been able to bring on almost over 1,000 over the course of the last 3 years. So we'll follow up specifically with you about transfer opportunities. They probably were not wrong that you cannot transfer within your development. You go on a list, a borough-wide list, that if there is space, if there are apartments that fit your household size that you are eligible for, that is what you're eligible for. They're not development lotteries. It's a system-wide equitable pool, and you are in line. So we'll follow up afterwards.
But the thing, can I just offer what I think is the common sense advice here? Hang on to what you have. We will help you apply for other options, but hang on what you have in the meantime, because it's a precious resource. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah, and if I could just correct the record for everyone, our apartments are not going market. So just that's another fact that's really important.
How long is your waiting list?
There are 250,000 people on the public
You hear that?
waiting list.
Number one issue, as the mayor said, that's the number one issue we hear is housing. It's a big, big, big issue. I see you, man. I got to go to my brother. Give him the microphone. You know we're going to do a question, right?
How you doing, Mr. Mayor? My name is Mick Knight. 1999, I was handcuffed, shot in the head by NYPD. The jury favored the police story, so I lost trial. And I was placed in a shelter on 599 Ralph Eastern Parkway. There are people in there, they meant to disturb, but we all need help in that spot. They focus, they got talent, they ability. All you have to do is provide your service to them. And trust me, they will cooperate. They're not mentally disturbed, they just mentally depressed because of their situation. We are all walking time bombs. You might got your family in your problem, you lost your loved one. People was walking time bombs by the problem they conceived. You see what I'm saying? So they not disturbed. And the way they behave in the street, trust me, you give them what they need and these people will act right. So they're not actually animals. They need help, man. And that right there on Eastern Park, 599 Ralph, called Riverdale, Eastern Parkway, that's one of the shelters. And they be out there in the street, just like they say, stopping cars, but those people are focused. They our people.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And let me ask on that development, that shelter, what are we doing to provide support in the shelter, whether it's employment training, mental health services? Do you know what's going on inside that shelter?
I do. Thank you for speaking out, sir. Thank you for speaking out, sir. It is a shelter where we provide mental health services. The city has 27 shelters for mental health services. It used to be a state obligation. We now are taking on this responsibility within our shelters. We have programs during the day, and we'll certainly come out there and see if there's any problems, and be happy to follow up with you to make sure that the services that are being provided are being provided. The supportive housing programs we're putting in place will also help move people out of the shelter, and I want to make sure that what we think is going on there is actually going on there.
But let me add one more point to this, that we need to make sure, because I think your point is a very good one, that a lot of people will respond if they're given support. We don't want people loitering on the street with nowhere to go, with nothing to do. We want to provide as much training, as much opportunity in the shelter or in other locations. This is the mandate I gave the commissioner a year or two ago now. And it's important when we hear this feedback to go back and check each shelter to see if that programming is being put into place. It is good for those individuals who happen to be homeless, and I remind everyone there, but for the grace of God go we. So we want to make sure we're providing them the support to get their lives as good as they can be, but also it inhibits folks from wanting to go out and just loiter on the street if they have something better to do.
And if I could just add to that, it used to be the rule that, and as the mayor helped us change this, it used to be the rule that at 7 o'clock people had to leave and they couldn't come back to 7 p.m. That's been rescinded. If there's any evidence that that is still going on, we're going to stop it right away, because that was a very important change we made to make sure people didn't have to be out on the street during the day. Instead, they could be in the shelter. But we will follow up with you to get any additional information you might have.
No.
We'll follow up with you.
No, come on, you know, brother, we know the rule. We can't.
Keep
come
moving.
on. No,
Keep
we
moving.
don't
You'll
want
get to talk to.
No, he answers the question. You ask the questions.
That's right.
That's the way this is done. We heard you. We heard you. No, don't get frustrated, because we heard you. We heard you. We heard you. No, brother, we heard you. And listen, and 2 months ago, I spent the night in a homeless shelter with men, and they were just as you said. We sat up the whole night talking and learning from each other. And these men are good men that just fell on hard times. And we heard you. Trust me, we heard you loud and clear. And we want to put them back on their feet, brother. And I stayed there with them. I know what you're talking about. Going in the back. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor de Blasio. My name is Phyllis Brockett. I'm the TA president at Linden Houses, located here in the East New York section of Brooklyn. I would like to know what are your plans about putting cameras in Linden Houses. We have 19 buildings, thanks to the barons who gave us money for 2 of the buildings. We have had an increase in crime. I listened to the borough president when he was commending Man Up for the young man who got shot. He got shot in our development, along with 2 other people. We are directly across the street from Boulevard, where 2 years ago, the young guy was murdered, and the perpetrator ran through the back of 300, which is located in Linden Houses. So I'd like to know, what are your plans for putting cameras throughout our development, because there is a drastic increase in crime.
Okay, so what we're going to do, and I want the whichever PSA it is to weigh in too. So what we're trying to do is, in each development, do our best to distribute the resources we have. So I want to be very straightforward. We don't have everything we want. We're trying year by year to add. We do try and track where we think the most severe problems are first, and then go out from there. So we don't have a plan for cameras yet. It's something we're going to look to do going forward, but we do not have it yet. That's the honest truth. I'm glad you're raising it, because it's helping us to say, okay, when does this get on the list, when the resources become available? Can you speak, Inspector, to what we are doing, even though we don't have the cameras, what are you doing to reinforce the situation there?
Sure. Year to date, we actually have a slight decrease in crime in the Linden Houses. We have 1 shooting incident for the year. Overall, as a PSA, we have a significant decrease in violence. We're down in shootings and homicides for the year, but we'll definitely get back to you and be on the ground working out to make things a lot safer in the community.
And we also have we have some new temporary lights that we've also put at Linden as well, thanks to the mayor's support. So we'll be working with you as well as the council member around getting some additional resources and a plan for cameras at Linden. Thank you.
And please put in for, Stephan, can you give her a call? Ma'am, put in for capital. I believe I gave money also, you know, but if we didn't, put in for capital money for Borough Hall, okay? Okay, what is your name? Stephan is going to give you a card, okay? Yes, ma'am. You thought I forgot you?
Good night, Mr. Mayor.
What about me?
You too, Eric.
My question is this one. I applied for affordable housing in Stanley Common. My name was called. She put it back on hold because she said that I make my appointment. That is impossible. Computer give it to me. So she put me back, and she had my appointment and my apartment on hold. What do you think I should do, or what you could do for me?
My understanding, I want the commissioner to confirm this, is we unfortunately have this situation sometimes where someone did everything right, and somehow they were not treated right in the process. Now, my understanding is if that's the case, that their application can be brought back to life and they can get back into a preference because it wasn't handled the way it should have been the first time. I don't know all the details, but I'm just using the broad point that there are people who thought they were out of options but actually could be retrieved and redeemed again. What can you tell us about this?
So there is an appeals process. And what I'd like to do is better understand what development it is, where you are in the process, what exactly happened in your case. So, and whether there is an appeal, and maybe you know if there is an appeal that is open right now. But we do have a process for individuals or families who go through the lottery if you do not believe that the decision that was made is one that is fair or appropriate. So let us talk afterwards.
So if you've not appealed, we will help you appeal to see if we can get you back in. Okay, so we'll do a follow-up with you. Thank you. And also, one other thing while we're getting the next person, Maria, if we also look at the situation of what happened, because I assume if someone was not treated right, then we may want to go back and deal with whoever they were dealing with on the government side and nonprofit side. So when you tell us your story, we're going to work to see if we can address your situation, but we also need to know if there was a breakdown, where it occurred, so we can go back and make sure no one else experiences the same problem.
That's right.
And that's why this is so important, because it may be something that's individually impacting you, but there could be a pattern that's impacting others. So that's why something like this town hall is important. By you raising it, now we're going to examine the whole process. So thank you for raising it. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Latisse, and I just had a concern about some of the young people that's coming up in the community. We're being told to go to college and do what we have to do to become successful, but there doesn't seem like there's a place for us once we finish that. With all the housing being for low income and then the houses actually being too expensive to afford when you graduate from college, how do you keep a community of people who are growing up in this community being able to stay here and be a part of the increased value that's happening to the community?
I appreciate that question a lot. And this is the challenge. Who is that mom there? Wait. Who said that's my baby? That's mom? You did good, mom. Okay. So, again, I want to level with everyone about the extent of the challenge, and then we'll talk about how we're trying to deal with it. We are in this vice right now. As the city changed, we are not keeping up with the change. I'm very honest about that fact. It is a radical change that has occurred that we're now trying to make sense of with all the tools of government. The private sector, which I have a big critique of, our laws are very favorable to the private sector, in many ways too favorable. And that's part of what we are experiencing the hard way right now. That being said, the combination of affordable housing programs that span different income levels, and this is important. I understand a lot of people raise a concern about what affordable to who. That's a question I get all the time, right? The one thing I can say when people get into our affordable housing programs, once you're in, the expectation is 1/3 of your rent and income. That's the one standard that is consistent that everyone agrees on in this town, that's fair. But when we offer the opportunities, we offer them in different income levels. So a college graduate, for example, if they have started their career, is likely to fit one of those income levels and have opportunity. It's still a lottery, there's still competition, but they're likely to fit one of those income levels in their own community. The second point is to try and create more job opportunities with a preference for people from the 5 boroughs. I mentioned the 4,000 jobs, for example, that are going into the IBZ. And you can certainly see in Brooklyn, for example, the amount of job growth that's occurring in Brooklyn overall. Brooklyn, the percentage of job growth in Brooklyn is outpacing Manhattan now. And that's meaning that people from here have an opportunity to get jobs here that will allow them to afford here. It's not a perfect equation by any stretch. But if you say, well, give me the method to the madness, give me the game plan is maximize the jobs in this borough that are better paying so Brooklynites can afford Brooklyn, maximize the amount of affordable housing we subsidize and keep in place, and that we build across different income bands from folks who have the lowest incomes to folks who might, for example, be public servants. Because if someone is a nurse or a teacher or a cop or a firefighter, we want them to be able to live here too. So that's part of the affordable housing we have too. But the problem, and it gets back to the quote you just heard about the NYCHA waiting list alone, the imbalance between demand and supply is severe. I don't have an answer for you that says, here's how I'm going to wave my magic wand and get that perfectly aligned. There's a severe gap. We have an affordable housing plan for 500,000 people Right now, it's on schedule. It's building all the time. 500,000 people. That's as many people as in Miami, in all of Miami. That's how much affordable housing we're creating. It's not enough. That's the honest truth. But our job is just to keep adding more jobs every year, more affordable housing every year, and try and get it to match up so people can actually stay here.
So number one issue we have is housing. And, the feds have turned their backs on us. This community has a great congressman and Congressman Jeffries as he's organized around Starrett's city now. And he was the advocate for housing when he was in the assembly. But that's the number one issue we're hearing throughout the entire city. And we all got to fight together to make it happen. Ma'am, yes, ma'am. You want my microphone? Okay.
So I just want to start it off with a quote from one of my colleagues and someone that I grew up with. She said to me, Claudette, the way my principal has been allowed to treat me, she's an educator, has caused me to stop believing in God. The way it is set up now with principals in the Board of Ed, there is a molestation that is being perpetuated and done daily, and everyone is turning a blind eye. I just spoke to one of my
sister.
Okay,
come on. Because your point, your quote was strong.
Okay, so the point that
finish
I'm
it with a
making-
question now. Okay.
So the point that I'm making is, Mayor De Blasio, what are we going to? I've been affected by it. I want someone to
Started out right when you said, "What are we?" Because that's the question. Starts with what?
Okay, yes. So
come on, I need you to flow. Okay.
Okay. So what are you going to do to stop this molestation?
I don't fully, I appreciate Eric keeping us all moving forward, but I don't fully understand what you're referring to, so I need to give the microphone back for a quick point. Just describe please briefly, what that means to you.
A principal does not like you,
right?
And
you're saying, and you're a teacher.
And you're a teacher,
right?
Or an administrator,
Uh-huh.
and they get together and they harass you, and then terminate you, and then blackball you
Okay,
forever.
I got you. Look, I'll start, and then Deputy Chancellor Phil Weinberg is here. Look, we are trying in our whole approach to the school system to make sure the teachers get an opportunity to do their job and thrive in the school system. We want to keep good teachers. We've lost tons of good teachers. We can't afford that. We want to keep the teachers who are truly committed. We also honestly have had a much smaller number of teachers who, for whatever reason, didn't fit the profession or had problems, and we had to address it. We try to create balance. There are real checks and balances. There are real careful due process things that happen if ever a principal says there's a problem with a teacher. I mean, that is a fact. There is, all in the contract and all. Someone might have a bad experience with it. I'm saying, is there a due process laid out in the contract? Does that have to be followed? Yes. But we try and strike that balance. I don't know from the situation you're saying, because I have not heard it said like that, what to do, how to address it, because again, it's new to me to hear it said that way. Let me see if the Deputy Chancellor has an insight on this.
It would be something you and I would have to talk about perhaps privately for a second. The Chancellor is vociferous in her desire to make sure joy is part of the work of all our educators. We have 1,800 schools. We have 1.1 million young people. 1 out of every 300 Americans will walk through a school's door in New York City tomorrow. We want to make sure everybody works to the best of their capabilities. They can only do so if there is joy and happiness in the work. So let me talk to you for a minute and find out what's going on.
Let me just add to that. Teaching is a calling, and I don't think the country treats our educators the way they should be taught. And if you are in pain, the students are going to be in pain. And so we need to find out what is the problem that you're dealing with and try to rectify the best way we can. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mr. Spurgeon. Mr. de Blasio earlier mentioned Brooklyn Family Academy. A lot of people in this room probably know Brooklyn Family Academy as District 19. A lot of us learned how to swim there, play basketball. Now, these kids these days don't have these programs. Our kids are lacking. They have nothing to do after school. They're cutting summer camp programs. Back in the days, the PL ran this program.
You know what I'm saying, right? Okay, all right. See?
It was an after-school program ran by the police. And these kids don't have these programs. These kids have too much idle time on their hands.
Yes.
We need to invest in money for our kids.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I agree. We all agree this is a profound problem. So one thing we did that was tangible, it's a beginning, it's not everything, but it's a beginning, is to make after-school programs available to all middle school kids. Now, there's something we're doing wrong because too many people don't know this. So let me take a poll of the room. Who in this room knows that every middle school child gets free after school now in New York City? If you know that already, raise your hand. Okay, so notice how many people, good people, active people, don't know it. I don't know what we're doing wrong because it is a free service. So I'm going to have to get our friends at DYCD and at DOE to promote more. But if your child's in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, they get after school for free. It may not be in their same building, but it will be in the neighborhood. And it's free and it's throughout the whole school year. We have doubled the number of kids in middle school who are getting after school. But we could take tens of thousands more. And it's literally, typical school day. Like from school day ends around 3, and we go all the way to 6 with the after school for free. And it is recreation, cultural programming, tutoring, all these things that are so important to children, particularly in that middle school age, which is a very vulnerable time. So that's one thing we have made a universal right, but we've got to promote it more. We've got to get more kids involved. The ideal is to keep doing that across all grade levels. We don't have the money yet, but at least it gives you a sense of the fact that for the first time we have created some universal right within our school system because we think you're exactly right. If you want to keep kids out of trouble, give them something good to do. Equally, in the summer, in a lot of the public housing developments, where we used to have some serious problems with violence, et cetera, we greatly extended the summer recreation programs well into the night. Has had a huge impact. Giving kids that positive alternative has changed the whole dynamic. We're going to keep supporting that.
And one piece that is often missed, we have just some amazing men and women in the police department. We cannot say enough about Chief Mandry, his team, Inspector Caban, I see him in the back also. I cannot tell you, it's not what they do off hours. And you go to some of his programs that he's doing with young people, his entire team, they're all on board. Even I think Halloween, you do this thing with the command center. They're tearing down those walls that really prevented our young people from wanting to interact with the police, because you have a real person. Chief Powell, every year you hear about Juve being a mess. You don't hear anything about it this year, do you? Because he did what needed to be done. And so the goal is to have our young people want to become part of the community that police the community. That is so important. And because they have treated them with the dignity and respect that they deserve, you're seeing a change. We figured out how to do crime. Crime is at an unprecedented low level. We didn't figure out how to build the relationship between cop and community until this mayor came and changed that around. Now people are happy to see their police officers again because of officers like this. So we're doing the right thing, okay? There was someone over here. No, right there. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Mr. Adams. My name is Judith Noreen. I work with victims of domestic violence since 1989. I have several questions, but the one question that I have is about the immigrants. You have people that have to leave their home, go in the shelter, but there's nowhere for them to go. And they streamline them in another shelter for 2 years, 3 years, and their life, they have children.
You're saying they're victims of domestic violence?
Yes.
Okay.
and there is no financial income for them also because they're undocumented, and there's no housing.
So so you're specifically talking about the undocumented?
Yes, right
Okay.
now, yes.
So help us understand, Commissioner, because I know there's some different realities that exist if it's someone undocumented versus documented. But there's a particularly thank you for the good work. Let's give her a good round of applause to thank her for the work she does. But this is a particular troubling combination of realities. A victim of domestic violence who's also undocumented. How can we support them? And maybe you can express what we do if someone, the differences if someone is documented, what we're able to do so people understand.
Thank you for your question and for your service, and we will follow up with you on specifics. As an overall matter, we provide shelter regardless of immigration status, as you know, and where we're able to, if there's a child born in the country, in the household, we're able to piece together some rental assistance. Unfortunately, with various rules that we did not create at the city level, we don't have the ability to give rental assistance if nobody in the household is documented. But I would love to sit down with you or have some of our staff sit down tonight and see if there are particular families that you've got that maybe we might find a creative way to find someone in the household who would be eligible for assistance and then help the whole families move out. But you raised a very important issue with a very serious problem.
Thank you. In the back, in the back, in the back. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, Borough President. I'm been living in the East New York community for approximately 9 years, and I've come to see the potential of the people who live in the community. To talk about what the Borough President mentioned, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and the problems that are in the health issues that we deal with in East New York. What is being done to foster economic development along Pennsylvania Avenue and to allow small businesses to thrive, to encourage entrepreneurship and allow healthy restaurants and food businesses to be able to open versus the White Castle, Popeyes, Burger King?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an excellent question. Okay. And this is also going to test the depth of our creativity as an administration. So we have people here from our Commissioner for Small Business Services, and we have the Chief of Staff for Economic Development Corporation, and we have the First Deputy Commissioner for Health. So you're going to be a little coalition up here. There's an excellent question. Do we try to particularly foster healthy products in the companies and stores that sell healthy products? Let's talk about that.
So through the Neighborhood Health Action Center, we have a program called Shop Healthy, and part of what we do is we work with bodegas to help them have healthier food options more available for communities. Beyond that, we sponsor, again, through the Neighborhood Health Action Center, opportunities for community members to learn about healthier options for cooking food for themselves, for their families. It's a part of our wellness.
Well, so that's good, but I want to pull toward the question. Those are good things, but this is a very clever question. Do we help encourage stores that will provide healthy products to the community?
So the direct way in which we work with stores is through our Shop Healthy and help connecting them to opportunities to sell healthier products and then to create a demand in the community so that it's economically viable for them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg.
Yeah. Sure. I think that's exactly right. Since 2009 at EDC, in partnership with the Department of City Planning, we've also run something called the Fresh Program, where we try to make sure that there are stores coming up in neighborhoods and along commercial corridors like Pennsylvania that are selling fresh produce and not just nachos and energy drinks and the like. And so if you know somebody who wants to get into that business, we want to help them do that because it's a tough one to make money, but we definitely need it in our neighborhoods.
So, and finally, the reason why I wanted to be last, because we did a study in the neighborhood. If you go on our website, nyc.gov/SBS, you'll see a commercial district needs assessment where we worked with the community, and we worked with a couple of organizations in this room, East New York LDC and Cypress Hills, to identify some opportunities for entrepreneurs based on the needs of the community. And then that was one of the things that the community said they wanted to have fresh options. So certainly we at Small Business Services can help someone who's an entrepreneur actually launch a particular business. And we've made investments here to ensure that individuals know the ability and what the neighborhood is looking for.
So just to put a point on that, so if you know of anybody who is looking to provide that kind of service to the community and needs to get started, you're saying we are willing to take them by the hand and help them achieve that?
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
And ma'am, if you have any ideas, you should connect with the commission. If you have some ideas, because it seems like you have some background in that, you should connect with the commission, okay? Over here, in the back.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Borough President. The question I have is in reference to the New York City Economic Development Corporation. Recently, they had released the Anchor RFP to encourage commercial development within East New York. And upon us reading this RFP, the question that I'm asking here is why the RFP did not require real community benefits beyond higher NYC, meaning targeting local residents and also local businesses to enjoy some of the provisions, adding provisions for affordable commercial rent.
Okay, now let me test that. I appreciate the question. Obviously, you've done your homework. The higher NYC is the system for prioritizing the hiring of community residents. But you're saying, I want to make sure I got the question. You're saying that you're looking for prioritization of buying from community businesses. Is that what I'm hearing? Let's give him the mic back for a second. I want to make sure I understand the question.
2 points, basically, just going deeper as far as focusing if it's in East New York residents get first preference. If this development is in East New York, also commercial businesses currently in East New York can enjoy possibly affordable rents. If that amendments could be added into the RFP.
So I want to separate, just for everyone's understanding, the job creation element from the providing an opportunity for a business to locate. Can you speak to how we do preferences for the community in each of those, James?
Sure, happy to do it. So the Higher NYC program has been part of our development approach for several years now. It focuses, as the mayor said, on trying to ensure that the benefits of the work that we're doing in neighborhoods inure to the people who live there, who have grown up there, and who have made it great. And so what we require of businesses that tenant in those projects is that 50% of the hires for newly opened positions are sourced through the workforce system in New York City and through local providers who know the community and know how to work with people here. And then beyond that, that the folks who are hired in those jobs have opportunities for retention and for advancement in those positions. As we move forward with this particular RFP, because you also asked about commercial rent, we are extremely interested in making sure that in addition to the government jobs that will come here as part of the office anchor strategy, if we are lucky enough to find a site here in East New York, that local businesses are able to find a place in those buildings as well. There will be a process. It will go through a public land reviews process with the borough president, with the council member, and that is a conversation we are eager to have.
But will it be a preference from what we see now? Will we make it a preference for already locally based businesses to have access?
We would absolutely be open to having that conversation as we review the RFP with the members of the community.
He's leaving himself some room. Okay, well, I'll tell you, because I'm not a lawyer. I'm certainly interested in that. Now, I know there's lots that go into these RFPs and obviously lots of stakeholders, but I think your point is well taken. Look, the bottom line is, here's what's good about locally based businesses. They hire local people, right? We want to recycle dollars in the community. We want to maximize opportunity. So I'm sure there's some other factors we have to take into account, but I will put my endorsement in for the idea of mirroring what we do to prioritize local hiring with also giving every opportunity for local businesses to have that space to keep expanding.
Yes.
Good.
And if you know a local business that is interested in that space when it comes online, we absolutely want to hear about it.
Thank you.
And you know what? And you raised a good, you know, man. He raised a good point. Even when it comes down to when we put out RFPs for developing sites, we have some up and coming developers who have started small projects and they want to continue to expand. If they're good local developers, we need to really figure out how to, because the RFP process, we can weigh it, you know, and if we have some young developers, they should have an opportunity. They're from the community. They're going to make sure that the space is going to be used right. And I think somehow we need to figure out how to do, you know, the way you have been creative and doing some of this other stuff, I think we should really look at how do we take this young developer, he's from the area, you know, hey, we have a space that we're going to develop. How do we weigh it so that they could have an opportunity to develop in that area also? Not cats are coming from, you know, outside the borough and just developing in it.
That's right. No, I think that's very consistent with the whole, look, depending on what we're trying to develop, we've got to find the right company for it. But obviously, every time we can give a preference to a community-based company, including one coming up, we've got some of our best affordable housing developers in the city, started very humble origins in the neighborhood and built up and built up and built up. So we want to encourage that. And that's true through what we do with EDC, and it's also true through our MWBE initiatives that connect into everything we're doing on economic development.
Going over in the rear. I see you in the back, in the rear. You've been so patient. Yes. Please give her a microphone.
Thank you. My name is Teresa Jenkins. I'm the PTA president here. I first must say that Dr. McBride, our superintendent, and the administrators at our school are doing great. But my question is, what can we do to get after-school funding? We need more after-school funding.
Right. So we can, you know, Phil, I don't know if you want to speak to this or the superintendent wants to speak to it. The fact is, again, we've guaranteed it for the middle school level. It is case by case for the elementary level and the high school level. That's the honest truth. And we try and work with schools, and some schools obviously believe it's a particularly high priority and have found a way within their budgets or other support that they can bring in to do it. We do not, again, my job is to be honest with people. I would love nothing more than absolute universal after school. I do not have the money right now, but we do try and work with any school that's trying to achieve it.
And it's hard to add to that answer. The truth is just there isn't as much as we would want for everybody. But I'm happy to come back and talk with you and Principal Cameron about what the options might be for your school. Thanks.
And President, this building is so clean and immaculate. You know, I can't give you a lot, but my staff is going to give you a form. I want to make a $5,000 donation to your program. I don't know if you saw these halls. This place is clean, and that's the prerequisite to learning is to be in an environment where people respect you and say you are worthy of a clean atmosphere. And I like what you're doing as a PTA president. And let's stay in context. We got some things we're going to be doing with hydroponic, teaching children how to grow fresh fruits and vegetables. So I want to stay in contact with you and make sure my staff give you a card so we can give you a $5,000 discretionary that we got from the mayor anyway. So it's his money. You know. Okay, I was on this side. I think you were patient for a long time. And sometimes it's dangerous that I'm calling on you, but I'm going to call you anyway.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Borough President Adams. My name is Calvin Anderson from the East New York Urban Youth Corps.
Get the microphone closer. There you go.
Yes. Is it possible to develop a practical civics education program as a co-curricular program to our civics in school? For school-age kids, that includes a topical agenda from the mayor's office, from the police department, and from cultural affairs so that they're connected to the world-class city that we have.
Excellent question. Thank you. Yes, and what I'd say is, look, I think we are not where we need to be on civics education. We're starting in the direction of creating something that's more real world and more engaging for young people. But I'll put it in a little perspective to agree with your point. What's happened in just the last year in this country demands folks understand their role in society differently. You know, a huge number of people around the country are not convinced that voting matters, are not convinced coming out to a gathering like this matters, and that is having real consequences for the country. So we in the city, too, have to teach civic involvement in a very compelling fashion. I think some people would be, if they came to a meeting like this, to see that they can raise demands directly to the people who have the ability to act on them and get some actual real solutions in real time, would be more inspired to be involved. But we're not creating enough of that energy, and it has to start in schools. And by the way, I believe this generation coming up is very open to being involved, but we have to meet them. So I've talked to the Chancellor about this. This is something we're going to try and come up with a much more updated version of civics education over the next year or so. We would love the help, and I'll have you talk to Deputy Chancellor Weinberg afterwards, right there. Thank you.
Excellent question. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Take a microphone.
Thank you, of course, right? And Board President Adams, one of the current concerns in education is fear. Children fear that their loved ones will be deported. Now, would you allow Dreamers to serve to build a stronger community trust? What I mean is, this will happen by allowing legal permanent residents and other legal immigrants to serve in uniform in the NYPD, the New York Finest, and the New York Bravest, the FDNY. And then we would really have a true sanctuary city.
I appreciate the question. I have to say, I've been doing this job for 4 years, and I believe you're the first person to ask me that question. And I'm impressed by the question. I'm not going to, sometimes it's really important to be honest in terms of when you hear something the first time, to acknowledge I hear something appealing in that, and I hear something complicated in that, and I need to think about it. You absolutely could. So I appreciate it. You've put it on my radar, and I will have my team assess it. But I want to say thank you very much. At the same time, the fact about the Dreamers is, while that's a perfectly fair point you've made, we have a chance right now to address the struggle of the Dreamers in this next 5-6 months and resolve it once and for all. And it might have seemed a short while ago like that was an impossibility. But the winds have shifted, and right now there's such a clear majority in this country that think the Dreamers should be allowed to stay and recognize their contributions, that I think there's actually a likelihood now of getting legislation passed. And we have a lot of work to do. But I think we're in a situation where if everyone does their work, and I'm working with mayors all over the country, and you'd be amazed at Republican mayors all over the heartland of America who are adamantly telling their congresspeople and senators that the Dreamers should be allowed to stay because they actually know the Dreamers. We have a chance to actually win this battle. Thank you.
And we cannot say enough about what you have done to raise this conversation across the entire country. You have really led this fight. And a lot of people were intimidated by Trump. You took it head on and really moved the needle on that. And I think a lot of families are going to be, better off because of that. I was running late tonight because at Borough Hall tonight, we had a gathering with the families of Pueblo in Mexico. We we connected with an organization that brought their mothers and grandmothers here to New York who are seeing their children for the first time, and some of them over 20 years. They're at Borough Hall right now as we speak. And this is the first time those grandmothers saw their grandchildren, their children, because many of them can't go back because of their status. And I think one of the first steps we can do is to allow legal green card holders to go into some of these agencies as well. So I think you're right on. Thank you for that question. Yes, ma'am. You sit next to my favorite aunt. You know that, right?
She happens to be my best friend. All right. You have this affordable housing. I make too much, so I'm not eligible for that. And what you're putting up, I don't make enough, so I'm not eligible for that. So, and unfortunately, I don't fall up under you.
But wait a minute, why do you say, why do you say you make too much? Where
because
have you
I work for transit, and I'm a single person.
Right.
And they say I make too much.
They're saying,
no kids.
Let me just test that for a second. Unless you own the transit authority, right? So, right. What's your job title?
I am a train operator.
Train operator, single. I would be amazed if there's something we don't have that fits that.
So it would be what I think what I'd love to do is better understand which units and which projects you applied for. It is true that they're across a range of incomes, but as I think we've said a couple of times tonight, we really, one, try to make sure that we're providing units for families and individuals of different incomes, but as importantly, we are providing the right type of support so that you apply for the right type of apartment.
Right.
So that process is as clear as it can be, that you don't waste time applying for apartments that you're not eligible for, and that you better understand that process. And so let's definitely talk, because I do want to understand that better.
Okay, thank you.
This really reinforces what the mayor has been saying, why we need several income bands. You know, it's important to have low-income housing, middle-income housing, but here you have a conductor or a motor person who, you know, want to stay in her community. And if we don't also provide for that income band, we're going to lose a very solid citizen. So that's why I'm a big advocate of having across-the-board income band, without a doubt.
Yeah, so we're going to let them follow up with you, because even if it's someone who is single and therefore needs, for example, a studio or one bedroom, and it's someone who is in a public service job, there still should be some matches for that, and we want to show you how to.
Right. No, without a doubt, we're gonna connect you with a boo too. You know. Yes, ma'am.
Borough President, Mr. Mayor, thank you for this town hall.
Boo.
Good evening, Borough President,
evening.
Mr.
Good
Mayor.
afternoon.
Thank you very much for having this meeting with your commissioners and the information. And good emceeing.
Very
Excellent.
good. Very good.
I have one question.
Love you.
We have, under the Create NYC plan and the whole affordable housing plan, there is an identified need for more art and culture spaces in East New York in particular. We really want to promote that. Would also like to link it to affordable, unfortunately, very low-income housing, because a lot of our artists and cultural workers need that really almost like a subsidy space to keep them in the community, to keep our different neighborhoods having that kind of experience, because it strengthens all the neighborhood. How can we push that?
Okay. So we do try, and again, this is in the vein of the right direction, and it's going to help a lot of people, but it's not everything we want. So here are sort of the things I point to in terms of how we try and support, as you say, artists and cultural workers. For a long time, our school system ignored a mandate to provide cultural education. We put in, I think it's $23 million a year to fill that out and restore that in a whole host of schools. That comes with work for people who are in the cultural field. The after-school programs I mentioned are now universal. Again, I don't know why I can't get this story covered anywhere, but it's still a good news story that any 6th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader has a universal right to after-school for free now. A lot of cultural programming within that after-school employs artists and cultural workers to teach our kids in that after-school setting. And then there is an element of the affordable housing program, and it's not vast. I'm not going to overstate it. But there is an element of the affordable housing program that is specifically for artists and cultural workers to try and continue a tradition in this city of setting aside affordable housing so people, you couldn't be more right, who their work is noble and important to our society, but it is rarely compensated in a major way, and we acknowledge that by trying to create a band of affordable housing specifically for them. And I think it's, I want to say 1,500 units, but I'm not sure I'm right. So go ahead, Maria.
That's right. And the other thing that I'll add, because there are two components to really supporting artists in our city that are within HPD's purview. There's the artist housing that the mayor mentioned, but also we think there's a real role, because for a lot of our affordable housing developments, certainly they're the apartments, but we also think they're an opportunity to have the types of either community groups or performance spaces, right, that allow at an affordable rate for artists to have that type of space. So actually, I'd love to share with you, which I can do afterwards, one of our an RFP that we request for proposals that we just released a few weeks ago for a site in this community district. We specifically said we want the anchor of that, in addition to the apartments, to be something that recognizes arts and culture. So I definitely want to, and we're doing more and more of that. I'd love to make sure you know about that and can help spread the word and give us ideas on how to do more of it.
And that's so important, you know, and I want to commit to this community that next year I will allocate $1 million of my capital to a space for art. Art is not only BAM. Art is not BAM. We could, Art East New York, who I give money to, Art East New York. I don't know, have you ever been over there, man? We need to go over there one day. You need to see what they're doing over there. Art East New York, you know, we need to break free from this thought that having a artistic space is a white thing. You know what I'm saying? We need to enjoy Viola Plummer, what she does with jazz down at Sister's Place. You know, there's no reason we can't have jazz locations here, art space for our children, what you're doing with your dancers, you know. So we need to pour money into the art. I'm telling you, when children are beating the drum, they're not beating someone's head. You know, and so I'm for it, and let's continue to develop the artistic expressions here. Do the museums. Let's do art walks. Let's just put the energy into the art and really show what this community has to offer. I'm on board. I'm 100% on board. I'm into this art thing so much. Broccoli may nourish our body, but art feeds the anatomy of our spirit and makes us better people spiritually and emotionally. That's a winning question. Who do I see? Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got to get you, because if I don't, you're going to wait for me outside.
Thank you, Mr. Borough President. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here tonight. I'm a senior at Baruch College, and I have founded a youth-led project here in East New York focused on mental health. And I really want to thank the First Lady for creating the Thrive NYC project. But my main concern for here in East New York is that stigma and cultural stigma attached to residents seeking help and support. So what resources in our community, what physical resources do we have? What physical commitments from your administration do you have for our community that ensures that we address that stigma component of mental health?
Thank you. Now, I don't know if Dr. Barbeau knows some of the specific facts, so I can tell you just the quick outline, and then you can fill in anything that you know additionally. We're trying to do some of this for the whole city simultaneously, things like 888 NYC Well. But another piece of this is my wife is very passionate about this, is a training program for mental health workers, focusing on cultural competency, focusing on getting workers from communities that have particular need, training them and sending them back to the communities they came from to be able to serve. Because there has been a simultaneous crisis of an under-focus on mental health in our society. We treat mental health and physical health totally differently. The lack of parity, mental health always gets a short end of the stick to begin with across all demographics. And then along comes a second problem. The extent that there is mental health available, it skews radically by race and income, radically. So her emphasis was to level the playing field substantially by training a new generation of mental health workers of and by and for communities of color. And that is starting to have an effect as more and more people are trained and they're going out into the field. That's one piece of the equation. Obviously, the school piece, too. A number of schools that had no access to mental health, having a professional either full-time or at least part-time in the building to catch issues while kids are young. But in terms of anything specific in the community we can point to, do you have an example to share?
So two things. One is that we have partnered with the New York Academy of Medicine to have a community consultation to get more input about how we could work collaboratively to destigmatize the conversation about mental health. And that was sponsored through the Neighborhood Health Action Center. And Dr. Torian Easterling, he's the director of that, and he's here and can talk about that further. The second thing is, through the center, we offer mental health first aid training. And that oftentimes is really a critical first step to A, helping to identify when someone is in crisis, and B, giving people, everyday people in the community, the skills to feel comfortable about approaching someone who may be in crisis. And again, that's sponsored through...
And where is that? Help us all know. Where is that?
The address of the center?
259 Bristol Street. How far from here? 15 minutes from here. Okay. So, and tell me the name of the institution again? Neighborhood Health Action Center. That's part of Department of Health.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to emphasize and thank you for the good work you do there. I want to emphasize the mental health first aid. That is being provided for free to 250,000 New Yorkers. And the point Shirlane always makes is that a lot of people have been trained something in how to deal with if there's a physical problem, right? But if you see someone having a panic attack or someone who's depressed, we all get unnerved by it. We don't know what to do, and we don't try and help because we feel powerless. We can actually teach people how to respond to a situation and get help for someone in real time. It is a training that can make a world of difference. It's being provided, I should say, in all communities for free. So one of the very tangible things I would ask you to do, because I can hear the depth of your commitment, is work at the community level to get the maximum number of people to take advantage of that training so they can serve their fellow community member. Thank you.
And you know, if you remember in the beginning, mental health and talking about mental health is not a sexy conversation. And when Shirlane had the audacity to raise it and push it, she was criticized. Everyone attacked her. Everyone talked about her. She did not allow the noise to get in her way. She remained dedicated and committed. And people started to acknowledge, I'm no longer going to conceal the mental health problems they may be experiencing or their loved ones. For far too many years, parents were afraid to get the help for their children. And we cannot thank Shirlane enough for putting this on the forefront. She did a great job. All the way in the back, sister, I see you. You thought I didn't see you, didn't you?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nikki Johnson. I'm a former MOS.
Member of the service, for those of you who don't know.
But one of my main concerns is mental illness. We speak about addressing the issues of young people. We don't think just about infants and teens, but when they become 18 and 21, the agencies tell you things like we are not mandated for them to receive services. They have to come in on their own, and we can't force them. Recently, just a brief scenario, I know a young lady that was attacked at the age of 17 by 3 adults in their 30s, 1 male and 2 females. I called to get assistance. It took a week and a half to get a report done, and that's when she was 17. She is of age now, and I'm trying to desperately get help for her. I've gone to people explaining because she has a diagnosis, she's not capable of really taking care of herself. So when I call for a wellness check, people have responded, but those who have responded, some are professional and some are not professional. And I truly believe that no matter how much training we give people, if you're not mature, you're not going to do the job right. I've been told you don't tell us how to handle our job, but meanwhile, people are losing their lives when they call saying that my child is out of control. Too many people are dying because people are afraid of what they don't know, and I want to find a way to help her. She's been evicted from her home.
I need you to get to the question. We feel you. We got you.
The question is, how can we go about addressing a response? When you call to receive assistance, they say we can't make them go to the hospital, and right now they're calm. But meanwhile, they're not a doctor to make the diagnosis.
Okay, so I heard a couple of different things. Let me pull a piece of that out of the question, and then Dr. Barbeau will follow through. One piece is we are trying to train our own public employees to address these situations differently, more sensitively. I think it's about 5,000 police officers have now gotten crisis intervention training, for example. We're going to keep adding to that number. More and more, our teachers are getting training in how to deal with mental health situations, social, emotional issues, et cetera. So one thing we have to do is in public service, and you've obviously been a public servant yourself, in public service, change how we understand this work. But the second thing I want to say, you're saying that she needs help and she doesn't know where to turn and there's no one who's connecting her to that help? Is that what you're saying? Let's give her the mic back for a second. Thank you.
She needs the help. She reaches out to me. But when I call, they say we need to speak to her. And part of the problem is she's not able to follow through with anything. If I don't make appointments for her, if I don't speak on her behalf, nothing gets done. But meanwhile, when I do call for assistance, the thing that they seem to be interested in is, does she have any warrants?
Okay, so something's wrong there, because we want, and again, one of the concepts behind that number I've mentioned, 888-NYC-WELL, is someone can call for someone else and make an appointment and help them get them. We don't want that to be stigmatized too, or that to be too difficult. So, Doctor, what can we do in a situation like this?
So on this specifically, we'll talk with you offline to get the specifics and to get her contact info. But the important thing is, as the mayor mentioned, the access number NYC-WELL. We also have programs where we can link her with peers who have gone through similar situations, because sometimes it's about the messenger and about individuals needing additional support beyond family members, because it's a different dynamic. And so we can work on identifying potential peer supports that we can offer her, or other interventions, other programs that we have available to provide that ongoing support to help her keep appointments, access to medication, and whatever, like, for example, supportive housing needs she might have. So we can talk offline about that.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. The three of you, are you recruits? Who are you? Recruits? Huh? Cadets? Going into the academy? Oh, good. Excellent. Look, give them a hand. These are some of our future law enforcement. You know? Study. You could become a captain.
Wait a minute, Borough President. When you were coming up in the police force, didn't you have to stand up when people are acknowledging you?
Without a doubt. Come on, Shuka, stand up, stand up. You know? Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. It's so good to see young people come into the department. You know, when I first came in, they said, for some reason, you're going to be trouble. We could tell. But thank you so much, and good luck to you in your career. It's a great career. It's a great career. I saw someone, ma'am,
I want to give a first caution. We got 15 minutes to go on the formal meeting. And again, at the end of the meeting, all these good people are still going to be available. So 15 minutes to go for...
Sounds like a plan. So we're going to flow. Ma'am, you wanted to say something. I saw you. You wanted to ask a question, I should have said.
No, it wasn't.
Then, you know what? Get that mic back up then. Question.
Just to,
No.
Or brief comment.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah.
See, you opened the door. Now you
brief.
in trouble.
No way. We're going to watch if it's brief. Go.
I just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing, and also about mental health is very important. I wanted to let everyone know about mental health first aid training is going to be November 14th and the 16th at Gregory Jackson Center from 9 to 5.
That's a public service announcement. That was okay. Thank you.
Okay. 1, 2, and then 3. Yes.
Mr. Borough President, I promise I will only ask a question, but before that, with your permission, I would like to thank Mr. Mayor. I'm Dr. Kabir. I'm a proud Muslim New Yorker. Thank you for giving my daughter, 6-year-old daughter, the opportunity to stay home during the 2 Eid holidays. And the next question to you, when are you going to give my 6-year-old daughter to have a hot, nutritious, halal meal when she goes to school. Mr. Borough President, you said it's all about what we put on our body.
Yes.
Right? You said that, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
But I don't support the meat in that meal that you want to give your child. So don't get me started. Go ahead, Mayor.
You asked the wrong moderator on that question. So okay. But this is what the borough president said is actually an honest segue to the answer. We did look at very seriously at what it would take to do a full halal menu, and we also looked at it in terms of, because we've had the request from the Jewish community in terms of kosher food, and both at this moment, with the economic realities of the government today, are not reachable. They're very costly, cannot afford it compared to all the other priorities we have to achieve. That's the honest answer. Now, what the alternative is that we think could be very helpful for some is we provide a vegetarian meal, which is not hot. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you it like it is. It's a cold vegetarian meal, but it is nutritious. And we have real interest from some families in that option, making that the best it can be to conform with the dietary needs of the community, but a good option for kids. That's the thing we're going to do more with. But I wish I could give you the hot meal. I can't do that right now. That's the honest truth.
Okay, action round. We got to move now. Listen, you guys have been amazing. We flowed. We got a lot of questions in. So really zero in on the question. Okay, I want our district leader. Then this madam here. We didn't forget you. We just saving you. So you, right? No.
Okay, making it quick. Good evening to everyone, and thank you, Borough President, as well as Mayor de Blasio. I am a proponent of school-based health centers, and I noticed that there are many of them that are in areas like Park Slope. I find that we need a little bit more of those within the East New York area, so that many of the issues that we're addressing, we can take a more preventive measure in them. Because in those schools-based health centers, they provide social services, mental services, they provide vision and dental and medical. So what can we do to increase that throughout the community?
Well, first of all, an honest response to the first part of what you said. There were a group of such centers in Park Slope that were receiving state funding, and the state cut off the funding, and they were all about to be closed down. The city's trying to keep them going for a while we can try and find a solution. So the sad reality is this is an area that has been challenged everywhere. What we have done with the community schools, which is now 215 of our schools, is they have physical health and mental health in the building. So that's the ultimate expression of what you're talking about. And that community school initiative has continued to grow. We are, and you've heard the ways we're trying to add the mental health piece of the equation more and more into schools. In terms of where we would go and add more physical health capacity, I don't have an easy answer for you. I don't think we have a specific plan. But, and I'm turning to the Deputy Chancellor and the Health Commissioner, if there's a disparity, if there's a place where the need is great and we're not getting it, we would always look at that option of adding that capacity in. So, Dr. Barbeau, you want to speak about if there's some way we're looking for where there is more need or how we're making sure the need is adjusted properly?
So part of what has taken place over the last several years is focusing on providing school-based health centers in places like high schools and middle schools. The rate limiting step here is that there's a lot of physical plant needs that need to be addressed in order to accommodate school-based health centers. I think what we can do is Dr. Easterling and I can meet with you afterwards to see if there are particular schools where there's an interest from the principal and the community, and we can look to partner with federally qualified health centers or medical centers that might be interested in sponsoring them.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back, yes. Mm-hmm. We got to add 2 minutes because it took him 2 minutes to get that mic to him.
Hello.
We're going to add time back to the clock there.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Angus Fisher. I'm on the Community Board 5 here in this community. Love my community. With the rezoning plan that's going on in our community and all that's happening, be it that we're the first to initiate the inclusionary housing program or process or procedure, whatever y'all call it. We, the developments, especially on Livonia Commons and everything, the commercial space there has been vacant since it was built. When we sat down and we met with city planning and everything, they said that this will be community space that we can use for community stores. We can open up community-based things, but what we're finding in some of the newer ones that's coming up, Dollar Trees, they have a contract with the contractors and they have this land already pre-planned out. So what can you and your office do to make sure that in the fight going forward that we have this space for us as we ask for it?
Thank you very much for that
And
question.
be affordable for our community people.
So thank you for the question, and I don't know which of the different agencies can best speak to this, but I want to start with the way the gentleman framed it, that if there was a commitment to the community as part of a rezoning process or any process previously, Livonia, some of Livonia I think predates the rezoning, how do we enforce community benefits that are agreed to in a case like this, and does anyone know about the specific commitment here?
Thank you for your question. No, I don't know the specifics. I'd like to better understand if it's Livonia Commons 1, 2, or a different project that's part of the rezoning. So I'll say a couple of things. For any commitment that's made, that has been made as part of the East New York rezoning, one of the things that was very important to us is that we have a real way to track and hold ourselves accountable to you and the rest of the neighborhood with anything that we promised. And so if there's something specific, a specific project, I'd like to better understand what that is and how we're doing. And how do we make that happen on this specific point? We work with SBS very closely, for instance, to the extent that there is there's ground floor retail to try to make the matches in the community, because we don't want them to be vacant. We want to make sure we're making the partnerships that are needed. So let's talk specifically about what the project is, where it is, and it is important to us that every promise that we
So
make
let me make it a little simpler. Everything Maria said is right, and she's joined by the chair of the City Planning Commission, Marissa Lago. If there was a formal agreement with the community, we will keep the formal agreement. So I want the two of them to go back, and they can follow up with you. If there's a specific formal agreement that the community is supposed to have affordable commercial space or space for other community needs, and it's not happening, we have to go and fix it. So you two are the subcommittee to fix it. Okay?
I'm so glad I don't know if you guys have noticed, but look over there. You see that diversity? Did you see it under the billionaire? Right. Listen to some of those names that he's mentioned. That's a diverse group. We got some great people doing some great things in government. The transportation, Commissioner Bray. Your parks are unbelievable. I don't know how many millions of dollars we put in the parks in Brooklyn. $50+ million in the parks in Brooklyn. Marty, he must be the happiest man in Brooklyn. He loves his job every day. Amazing thing. Viola Plummer, Mayor, told me the question that you asked, District Leader, on October 6th, Boys and Girls High, Senator Montgomery is going to be doing a school-based health clinic a forum on that date. Tomorrow, before we leave, tomorrow we're doing a vigil at Borough Hall for the people of Vegas. You know, a death is a death, and we need to stay connected to the human spirit, that when someone loses a life, it impacts our entire globe, and we want to be there for them. Over here, I saw a hand over there. Yes, ma'am, in the back. Yes. Three more questions. This is why I lose voters, because the fourth person is not going to vote for me.
It's my fault. My fault. They should vote for you. They can take it out on me.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it on? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor de Blasio and Mr. Adams for coming. I haven't heard anything mentioned about early childhood care. Pete, thank you so much for the other programs, but many fundings have been taken away from us, like I think in the early 2000s, and I'm a Lilium children, which I have 5, and I have 5 grandkids now. It's like they felt depressed or like, who's gonna take care of my child? It's not affordable to me. The jobs that are being offered to me are not, also, it doesn't provide an umbrella for all my needs and my children's needs. Housing, childcare, food, everything. And they are more with us where the grandparents are taking care of
We got you.
them.
Let him answer. Let him answer.
So on early childhood care. So again, the demands of the truth require me to say we do not have a system in New York City where every child in their youngest years is covered all the time. That's a world I would love to get to, and we're making more strides than almost anywhere else in the country because we did pre-K for all, and now we have actually started on the road to 3K for all, so 3-year-olds being covered. So where we will get in 4 years, with everyone here's help, is that we will have 2 years of early childhood that used to be unavailable to most people will then be available as universal rights. Okay, now that's a big deal. And that's going to, by the way, to achieve that is traditional public schools, charter schools, religious schools, community-based organizations are all going to participate to allow us to have that kind of reach. Okay? Then what happens with kids in the first year of their life and when they're 1 and when they're 2? Well, one positive is that as we focus the Department of Education on covering kids first down to 4, now down to 3, we open up the opportunity for a lot of other organizations to work on kids who are 0, 1, 2. And there are fantastic organizations that do early childhood education and do child care who now can specialize on those younger grades. And we've been funding them and sort of trying to shift their emphasis younger. I can't tell you it's going to be universal, but it will reach a lot of families. I think the notion here is to recognize that, one, the modern world, families are, the breadwinners are working harder and harder, longer and longer hours, and need that early childhood opportunity just because they need to make ends meet. But the second, which has been a growing realization, is that kids can learn from 0 to 5 in a way that is literally cannot be reproduced at any other point in life. And we as a society and as an educational system, we're had it totally backwards. Basically, we started education in earnest when kids were 6. We missed the whole window. And now we are finally righting the wrong and reaching kids younger and younger in a more systematic way. By the way, I'm an optimist by nature, but I'm telling you, come back in 15 or 20 years and look at what's going to happen in this city when a generation of children start their education this much earlier, and it's going to be amazing what it does for their lives. That's the exciting future of New York City.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't get you? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mayor, Borough President. Thank you for coming. My question is a quality of life question. Along Jamaica Avenue, beginning in Pennsylvania, there's been a lot of storefront tire shops, and they're creating a quality of life issue because the tires, they're cluttering the sidewalks. Mm-hmm. They're monopolizing the parking spaces because now they're selling cars. So what can we do? We already been to a community meetings.
Let's get the precinct involved. Who's got it? And, the buildings department wants to get this one too. I like it. Okay, team effort. Buildings commissioner's angry. Yeah. That's good.
You struck a chord with us on this one. Yeah, this is clearly, it's likely a very illegal use from a zoning perspective, and we'll gladly send somebody out there tomorrow and issue some violations. And we will absolutely work with NYPD on this matter.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Right, after this meeting, I'll hook you up with myself and two of my NCOs to handle that area. We'll take a look tomorrow. As far as the cars on Jamaica, cars for sale, we do deal with those. We do road toll a lot of those cars, and we'll continue. Jamaica's one of our hot spots. But like I said, for the NCOs tomorrow and myself, we'll hook up. We'll take a look at those, and we'll talk to the store owners and see what we can do.
Excellent. Thank you. Good question. All right.
And you probably didn't realize. Commissioner, can you stand up, please? Let me tell you, I'm the number one. I have been the number one critic of the Department of Buildings. This commissioner has taken an 8-track agency into the iPhone age. He has done an amazing job as the commissioner over at the Department of Building, and you cannot imagine. This was a good pickup that you made. Good acquisition, good acquisition.
Yeah.
You're all going to learn something right now. Why I waited for him to be the last person to ask a question.
That's right. You're brilliant. You're brilliant.
Give him the microphone. And let him ask his question.
Joe Gonzalez. Mr. Mayor, 5 months ago, I stood up at a town hall meeting and I brought to your attention that we, in the midst of outrageous housing shortage, have 1,000 acres of empty, unused land at Floyd Bennett Field. You remember the question.
I do.
And at the time, you pledged to have your administration look into this issue and report to the community what possibly can take place on those 1,000 acres of empty land. It's 5 months later. I'm still waiting.
Everything you said is right. So let me tell you what I know so far. But I'm also going to give an assignment to our city planning chair to follow up and get a more final answer. What I've understood so far about Floyd Bennett Field is that it is federal jurisdiction beyond our reach, and that we can't. I mean, look, you have 1,000 acres in New York City. I would take that right away and do 1,000 good things with it. But my initial understanding is federal jurisdiction beyond our reach. Now, the chair can look into this a little more in depth to see if there's any creative options, of lease or anything else that could be done. And I will formally owe you a written answer to this question, because you've been very good about coming to town hall meetings and asking intelligent, good citizen questions. So that's the nicest thing anyone ever said about you. So, so Chair, will you follow up on that?
After the meeting.
All right, and you'll see each other. Well, let's get you. Maybe you're on to something if we can find a way.
Can you do?
Thank you.
I need one favor.
What's the favor?
I had a Steve Harvey moment.
Yes, sir.
And I called on someone. Then I told him he couldn't.
We're going to allow it. We're going to allow it.
So we were going to end, but I called on you, and we didn't get your question. So please stand up. Thank you so much.
No. Much less embarrassing than Steve Harvey's moment.
We appreciate both of you to be here tonight.
Get closer so people can hear you.
Talking to the mic.
I said.
It's not on.
We in East New York.
There you go.
Appreciate both parties. That is the mayor and the borough president. Now, some of us have experienced 100+ increase in our property taxes. I'm here to let you know, sir.
Yes.
Question is for you. That we in East New York are not rich people.
Yes.
We cannot afford 100% plus property taxes. And if you do not do something about it, you are going to see more homelessness.
Thank you.
Bottom line.
Thank you. I appreciate the question very much. So, this is one of the single most complicated issues we face in New York City, but I've said that if the people renew my employment contract, that this is one that I will take on firsthand. Meaning this, to fix the problem that was just raised, which is disparate realities of property tax all over the city, by geography, by type of residential property, There's no one who could actually explain to any of us fully how the property tax dynamics make sense across the board because they're so complicated and there's such a lack of transparency. My goal is to create a reform property tax system that does not inadvertently penalize some neighborhoods at the expense of others and creates more consistency. That will take changes in state law, changes in city law. It's a big, complicated, probably multi-year process. But I'm committed to getting it done because I've heard many homeowners like her raise the concern about parity. So I'm again, scrupulous honesty. Do I have a solution that's going to affect you right this minute? No. It will take a year or two to solve this problem, but I'm committed to working with the City Council and the state legislature to reform the property tax system across the board. Wish me luck. Pray for me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor Bill de Blasio. Thank you.